And we are live. I'm here with Robin Frederick and a bunch of esteemed guests. Let's see, we have Angela Lewis, we got Brandon, we got Ebony, we got Matthew Weiss, Solveig, Robert, and I believe it's Umad, but if he'll have to come on one of these hangouts and let me know. His audio is not working, he's going to have to type it in. And of course we have Robin Frederick. I'm going to give a couple of shout outs. Let's see. As a matter of fact, this Thursday, October the 8th at 2 p.m., the Mix Academy web show, David Glenn Culp. You can go to David Glenn Culp, Glenn with 2 N's, and it's K-U-L-P, davidglennculp.com, and you'll see where they're going to do, it's free, they're going to do a webinar, web show, whatever they want to call it. It's an interview with Gannon Kashiwa of Universal Audio. Gannon, if I destroyed your name, I apologize. But you guys can go and watch that. Taxi.com has been doing a great job. Robin Frederick is a part of that. What's his name at Taxi.com? The guy.
Michael Lasko.
Lasko.
Michael Lasko. Yeah, he does the Ustream TV shows on Monday afternoon. They're really filled with information. They're real good. Yes,
you guys have several, and there's several other people on there. Just great information. Anybody, just get on YouTube. Do a search for Taxi or Robin Frederick, songwriting, stuff like that for Taxi, and you'll come across a bunch of good stuff. Mike and Devon Steelman at Steelman Studios in Van Nuys, and Echo Bar. I think Echo Bar Studios is in Hollywood, somewhere around there. Eric Riker, Bob Horn. Shout out to Dave Pensado and Herb Trowick, of course. Ross Hogarth just had a birthday. We're getting old, bruh. Happy birthday to you. And Brian Craig Keith just bought the preamp from Black Box. We're going to run it through the paces. Eric Racy's going to show us. Rossi? Anybody remember how to say his name? Because I keep saying Racy, but I know it's not. It's Rossi or something like that. But Eric's going to run us through it, show us some stuff. We'll probably end up over at Echo Bar. I'll probably bring a singer or a rapper or something. Maybe Chrissy69 will come with us, a rapper. And Vintage King LA, props to you. Thank you for the gear. And let's see. Okay, Robin.
Yeah.
We want to talk about film, and there's money to be made, all these opportunities. But before we even do that, rendezvous.
Before we do that, what?
Rendezvous. There's a song called Rendezvous.
Yeah.
You were singing it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, dear. Okay. We're recording, are we? Okay, and you really want me to do this? You know what? I'll tell you what that is. I'll tell you what that is.
Well, let me tell you what I was doing. I played that song, and it was relaxing.
Yes, yes.
It was like I put it on and I kept playing it, and it was relaxing. I was in chill mode.
That was back in the day when I was a signed artist with Higher Octave Music, which was a new age record label, and I had written a whole album of songs for that style, and they put that out, and it did pretty well. It was okay. And I mean, that was a wonderful album to do because it was uplifting and it was relaxing. It was very chill, kind of before we had the word chill. And I've been a signed artist a couple of times. I've also worked as a head of director of A&R and production for a division of Rhino Records. And I did work with Taxi as head of their A&R screener team for many years, which was really interesting. I got to train a lot of industry they thought was good about a song and what they thought could be strengthened. And then I left Taxi just a short while ago, and I began writing my books on hit songwriting, shortcuts to hit songwriting and shortcuts to songwriting for film and television, because I realized that no one had written a book on the film and TV songwriting subject. And I used to do that a lot. I also used to write hundreds and produce hundreds of songs for the Disney Channel, which I did back in the day. And so I kind of been all over the industry on both sides of the desk, from writing songs and being an artist to being a record label exec and training industry execs. And I got a pretty good look at both sides. So that helped me when I was writing my books. And I used all that to research what makes a song successful in a market like film and television, and what makes a song successful in a market like hit radio, which is quite different from film and TV songwriting. and what works for listeners, what makes listeners want to hear a song again, and just studying the hits and the successes in whatever market I wanted to be in. And that, by the way, to bring that around full circle, is how I got my deal with Higher Octave. I studied what they were putting out, and I studied what I thought was missing in what they were releasing, and I went to them with 3 songs and said, you guys want to do an album? And they said, yeah. So, I mean, getting a record deal shouldn't be as hard as some people think it is, because if you really do your homework in any field, you're going to have some success there. So that's kind of my background in a nutshell.
I saw Disney, Looney Tunes, School Rock.
Yeah, that's me.
For real?
Yeah, that's me. A lot of that. Yeah.
You guys have been jamming to her, didn't even know.
Hold on, let me just turn this off here. Mute that. Mute, please. Please mute.
Yeah, over there at
Never mind. Okay. Yeah, I did a lot of work in the family entertainment field. That's another market. It's very different from hit radio. And again, if you just study your market, you can often pick up on some of these niche genres where there isn't as much competition. And people said to me, oh, you can't make any money doing family entertainment, but that was not the truth at all. And I was delighted that they thought that, because it kept them out of it, and I got into it, and I made my living very successfully with Disney for many, many years as a songwriter and producer. So yeah, just look for niche markets. It's and film and television right now, I think, is still kind of hanging out as a niche market. There isn't as much competition as there is for hit radio, hit songs for radio.
Do you know anything about, like, with Disney, they buy the music and then don't use it, but you still get paid, and then they might re-up for it and still not use it, and you get paid?
I never had that happen. They do, in fact, do work for hire, and I never had a problem with work for hire contracts, as long as you get back what you would get normally in a non-work for hire contract. They get the copyright. There's no question. Disney's going to want your copyright, but they will give back to you in your contract. They'll give you back your royalties from your performance royalties and your sales, your mechanical royalties and sheet music royalties, and all of that is in the contract. So I wrote 200 plus songs, wrote and produced 200 plus songs for Disney in 3 years, and all of those songs were used, all of them. Wow. And all of them were on the Disney Channel for about 15 years, every day, every day. They're kids who grew up with my songs. And that paid really good royalties after a while. When it started, it was low, but by the time those songs bulked up, then, and a lot of times I'm working in genres that are bulk writing, is what I call it. And it's writing on assignment a lot of times. And you write because you have a deadline. And if I missed the deadline when I was writing for Disney, if I missed my deadline, the TV show I was writing for didn't have anything to shoot. And that was $20,000 down the tubes because they didn't have anything to shoot that day. So in case you're interested, by the way, Empire, wonderful TV series, which I'm assuming you are all watching. Empire is, most of those songs, which are really good songs, are written by one guy, a guy named James Washington, who goes by the name of Jim Beans, B-E-A-N-Z. Timbaland, as you started to mention, is the executive producer for music, and you can find an interview with him online in which he says, Jim comes to me with his ideas and some rough demos, and I give a little bit of feedback, I give him some direction, I tell him what changes to make. He goes back, he makes those changes, that song is done, and it goes on the air just like that. Timbaland and James Washington are listed as co-writers. And that is really as it should be. Timbaland knows what he wants. He tells him what he wants. It's valuable information. They are listed as co-writers. And some of those shows have 5 songs in it. So if you want to take a look at writing on assignment, that's a great show to watch. And then check out the songs. They're not written as full songs when they're done in the show. But then the soundtrack album comes out, and they have to finish those songs and get them on the soundtrack album. And that soundtrack album was #1 on Billboard's top 200 albums after the end of last season. So absolutely, this is a great area to look at if you're interested in assignment writing. There's not a ton of that work out there, but Empire is doing it. Did you have a question? Did you want to ask me something?
Yeah, what are some other TV shows that take independent artists?
Ah, well, have I got a list for you? The good thing about TV is that independent, unknown artists and bands are at an advantage here, not a disadvantage. So, for example, if you have a scene and you got, let's say there's a scene in the film 21, which is a really good movie, and this kid is landing for the first time in Las Vegas. He's in the airplane, and then he takes a limo through Vegas. He's seeing it for the first time, and we're seeing it through his eyes. If they played, let's say, Viva Las Vegas by Elvis Presley, you're going to have all those associations with it that we all have with Presley, you know, the fat Elvis, the big suits, the poses, the whole thing. But they didn't use that because they didn't want you, the viewer, to make those associations with Las Vegas for this movie. They wanted it to be much more spooky and strange and unknown, which it is for this character. And so they used a song by a Scottish group called The Aliens, and the song is called The Unknown, and it was recorded in the basement of a pub in Glasgow or wherever. And it's a raw, rough, lo-fi, beautiful song called The Unknown by The Aliens. It's well worth listening to. And that scene in 21 is so evocative and dark, and it sets the tone for everything that's going to happen in the movie. And that's what songs can do in films and TV shows. So a lot of TV shows, most of them, use songs by unknown and sometimes often unsigned artists. So, for example, shows that are on right now, I have a little short list here that I made, besides Empire, which is writing on assignment. But Nashville, Hawaii Five-0, Person of Interest, Longmire, The Blacklist, How to Get Away with Murder, Chasing Life, Castle, Stalker, Graceland, Switched at Birth, Teen Wolf, Arrow, Rain, Bones, Gotham, and Saving Hope. And you don't need to write all those down because you can find them all online at a website called TuneFind, TuneFind, all one word, tunefind.com. And if you go over there, you'll see some of the shows highlighted right on the homepage. But if you click See All, it'll take you to a page where there are tons of TV shows listed. Every one of them links to a page where every single episode in every single season is listed with the songs that were on the show, the best that they know what those songs were and what the scene was. It's a phenomenal resource if you're thinking of doing songwriting for film and television, because that's where you can go to study these songs and to get an idea for where your type of songwriting might belong. What style do you write in? What shows are using that style? So singer-songwriter is a very popular style for film and television because it's kind of moody and atmospheric, and it doesn't interfere with dialogue. But if you're doing dance or you're doing EDM, there's going to be lots of shows that have scenes in clubs, in nightclubs, in restaurants, in bars, where they're playing that in the background as source music, meaning it's coming from a source in the character's world. So if you do dance, you're going to want to look at those. Some of those are great shots where there's long scenes in a nightclub and there's this pounding music in the background. That could be you. That's source music. It's coming from a source in the character's world. The characters can obviously hear it. But a lot of these shows are doing something different now, which is called, I call it song score. Instead of underscore, they're using songs. And so they're replacing what underscore does, which is create energy or atmosphere or emotion in a scene, and they're replacing that with a song by an unknown person because they don't want to bring that extra famous baggage in, you know. As soon as some song starts playing that's a hit for, you know, Mary J. Blige, everybody goes, oh, I love that. Oh, I love Mary J. Blige. Oh, and they drop out of the scene, and they don't want you to do that. So being an unknown is a plus, is a big advantage here when they're doing song score. And also you're a little cheaper and you're a one-stop shop because they can license both the master and the song from you. Okay? So that's me kind of giving you dumping a whole lot of information on you.
That's a lot. That's
okay.
Great. Okay. So you said that it's more advantageous for independent people. which
Yeah.
of course a lot of us have no clue. What do we do to get our music into
Okay.
people?
Uh, Here's what you can do. Let's talk about that so everybody knows you can do this. And then we should also talk about what makes songwriting for film and television different from songwriting for radio, because they are two different styles. So to get your songs to these people, the person who is the best conduit to is the person who gathers songs to play for the executive producer, also called the showrunner. The person who gathers that stuff and gives this person choices for each scene in the show that needs a song is called a music supervisor. Music supervisors are slammed, absolutely slammed, with their job of just finding 3 songs that will make the director or the showrunner happy. Is a huge job, and then they are responsible for clearances and licenses and all these other things. So they're very difficult to get to. You can get to them if you make a real effort, a kind of DIY. You can do it. There are places where you can get their contact information. Songwriteruniverse.com, a very interesting website run by a publisher named Dale Kawashima. He has a thing there called resources. If you click on resources, it'll say music supervisors, and you can get some email addresses and try those. Be sure you watch their shows first so you know what their signature sound is. So Parenthood has a different signature sound from Longmire, and you don't want to send songs that don't work for Parenthood to, and now Parenthood's just gone off the air, but Liza Richardson does a lot of different kinds of shows. You want to check out which kinds of shows she's doing that would use your style of music. So that's a DIY way to do it. But the easier way, and the way that frees you up to spend more time songwriting and producing, is to go through a music library or something like Taxi. So music libraries, you can take a look at crucialmusic.com, CRUCIAL, crucialmusic.com, all one word. You can look at heavyhittersmusic.com. You can look at 5 Alarm, the number 5, and then alarm, 5alarmmusic.com. I think music is in there. I think it's 5alarmmusic.com with the number 5. And what I would do is search through their catalog. Anybody can. Just go through what they've got and listen to it. Anything that's like what you do, and see what they've got and say, I could be competitive with that. I could do that. Or I'm not competitive yet. I need to work on my chops a little bit more, songwriting or singing or whatever it is. That's a really good way to research this market. It's one of the ways I research it. Sometimes you'll hear things that aren't very good, but that's because they got signed real early on, and that library has grown since then. So compete with the best that they have. Okay? Those are 3 libraries. The other way to do it is to go over to taxi.com. This is a service that puts out like a it's like a pitch sheet, and they have a lot of film and television, and they really pioneered it back when the earliest TV shows were on. Dawson's Creek and The O.C. were the first 2 TV shows to really use songs heavily, and Taxi pioneered the listings, briefs for those shows. And you can submit to those if you're a member of Taxi, and you can get feedback. They have a lot of really good screeners because I trained them. And the screeners really know film and television because they came from there, a lot of them. And they can give you feedback on your song. So if you're not having luck pitching to the libraries, I definitely recommend checking out Taxi before or after, and seeing if you can get some good feedback on your songs to see if they fit the film and television market. That's the other thing we definitely need to talk about. But those are some ways you can get into film and television market: DIY, music libraries, or a service like taxi.com. Okay? Are we there? Who's there? Anybody speaking to me? Where did Matt go? There you are.
Making sure that they fit. That's something else for us to talk about. Oh, Brian Craig made it, finally. He has the most trouble getting into these hangouts.
Oh, no, I have the most trouble.
like he's not supposed to be in or something. Welcome, Brian.
Welcome, Brian.
Okay, now you said making sure that the music that we have or that we're capable of doing, of servicing them basically,
Yeah.
capable of doing the job. I take it a lot of people submit stuff and it just doesn't, it's not applicable, it doesn't fit.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. So just so you know, because I do this, I mean, I have screened for Taxi, I have screened for film and television, and I work with a lot of music supervisors. And one of the things that I know I have heard from some of these libraries is that 95% of the things that get submitted to them simply don't work for film and TV, or they're not at a they don't work. Let's put it that way. It's not that they're not at the level. It's just that they aren't the kind of song that will work in a scene. And so if you get turned down by a music library, which happens more often than not, it doesn't mean necessarily that your song isn't good or wouldn't work in some other market, but it just doesn't work for film and television. And that's the big issue that I think a lot of people don't realize when they start to get into this. They go, but my song is good. Well, the song is good. It just won't work for the use. So the use is what you want to be focused on, is the use for this market. And I'll tell you what that use is. We talked about source music. Source music, which is music that exists in the world of the characters. It's being played in a nightclub, or it's coming out of a car radio, or the background music at a yoga class, anything like that. Anything that's in the world of the characters is there to add realism. And it has to be in that situation, or it won't add realism, right? So if your music is going to be used, let's say Empire is such a good example, because, and Nashville is another one, because these are music business TV shows, and they're talking about, oh yeah, that record, that song could be a hit. I just know we should cut that song. I mean, it happens all the time on Empire and Nashville, all the time, those two shows. We should cut that because it's going to be a hit. Well, the interesting thing is, 20 years ago, audiences were gullible. They would go, oh yeah, sounds good to me, and they'd believe it if somebody on the TV show, in that show, said, yeah, let's cut that. And some of the worst songs ever, you know, I used to listen to this stuff and go, what? That's not very realistic. But you can't do that anymore, because audiences now have listened to, audiences know Simon Cowell. And I'm telling you, those audiences will sit there going, well, Simon Cowell wouldn't like that. That's not a hit. They know a lot more now than they used to. So when you're pitching some songs, like EDM is a really good example, you want to be competitive with what would be on the radio or they would be playing at a nightclub, so that you add realism to that scene. Okay? If you're pitching relaxing, relaxing meditative cues, I could be pitching the stuff from that album that I did years ago, and it would probably suit because it doesn't change that much. But you have to be contemporary, very current, if you're pitching something that's going to be used in something like a nightclub scene, or a car radio playing has to be playing something that realistically they would play on a car radio. So that's source music, source songs. When we talk about songs for underscore, song score, which they play underneath a scene. So, for example, when you watch Grey's Anatomy, during the opening scene and the final scene, in those two spots, a lot of times you'll hear a song playing underneath as the lead character does her narration, or it'll come up and it'll play underneath some of that scene. So, for example, she not get married, and she was devastated, and everything sort of fell apart. They played a song by Ingrid Michaelson called "Completely Unknown and Unsigned." At that time, they found her on MySpace, and the person who was music supervising found her and used that song, and it sold about 100,000 copies at iTunes the next couple of weeks. That's where the money is, by the way. And it's like a 5-minute use. And that's what you want. Those are the uses you want. When music is played way in the background underneath a cafe scene or when people are talking, the viewers can't really hear it. But during those spots where it's working as song score and it's up full underneath a montage or it's expressing the emotions that the characters are going through, that's where you want your songs to be. And many times those songs, as I mentioned, are unsigned artists. So those songs, their use is to add emotion, energy, or atmosphere to a scene. That's what those songs need to do. That's a very different use from radio, which needs a song to grab the listener's attention and hold it for 3.5 minutes from one ad to the next. That's, to be blunt about it, what radio needs you to do. Film and television doesn't want you to do that because the scene is holding the listener's attention, the viewer's attention. They don't want your song to grab attention. They want your song to enhance the impact of that scene, the emotional impact or the energy of that scene on the viewer so that they have a better, bigger, more memorable experience of that scene. So your song is at the service of the scene rather than being the sole thing that has to grab and hold attention. Big difference. And that's the difference between radio and film and television uses. So for film and TV, you can write songs that are much more intimate, introverted, emotional, thoughtful, slower than you would ever write for radio because they would never play those on radio. So that's why you can see a singer-songwriter like Ingrid Michaelson or the Civil Wars came up through film and television. Passenger, that big hit Let Her Go, came from a TV commercial that had used it. That's how people got exposed to it. Next thing you know, it's #1 on the AC charts. So film and television is now in radio to some degree. There's never going to be a real complete overlap because there's so many unusual songs that would never get played on the radio. So if you go over to tunefind.com and you look up Grey's Anatomy, which really takes a lot of chances with the songs that they use, take a look at some of those and you're going to see the kinds of bands that either you never heard of most of the time, or they're bands that get college radio play on college stations. It seems to spill over, that seems to go back and forth quite a bit. Beach House, Tame Impala, those kinds of bands that are on small labels or they're indie bands, they get used a lot. But there's going to be, I promise you, a ton of songs you've never heard of and a ton of artists who you've never heard of. And they're all independent releases. And that's because the songs are really album cuts. They're not the kind of songs that tend to be the kind of thing that ever gets played on radio because they just aren't compelling enough to stand on their own. But they work great with scenes because they're very emotional, they're very intriguing, they have a lot of depth. And everything about those songs is really tailored to do just that. Okay?
That means there's a lot of people who are complaining actually have a great place to go.
Yes, yes, thank you, yes, yes. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm telling you. And I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't researched this. Like, you know, I spent a year looking at this going, how come they played these weird songs on Grey's Anatomy? That was the one that got me started. How come? You know, and they were playing a lot of songs by an artist named Nick Drake, who died in 1974. But his songs were perfect for film and television, and we kind of hadn't caught up with him until the current singer-songwriter crop, which now is much more moody and atmospheric the way that he was back then. They're now doing it, and I began to see a lot of Nick Drake songs, and he was a friend of mine, and I was very aware of what was happening. And I'm watching this, going, why are Nick's songs suddenly getting all this attention? And I realized it's because he was the kind of songwriter that many of our singer-songwriters are now. So Tori Amos really launched this, a lot of it. Ingrid Michaelson picked up on it. There are singer-songwriters you've probably never heard of. I don't know how many of you have heard of Joshua Radin. Joshua Radin has sold 2 million singles. And and you've never heard of him. He's never had a hit. But his songs were used, his very first album, his first songs that he wrote were used on Scrubs. He just had it. He has that thing for film and TV. And then they were used on more and more TV shows, and now you see a song like Winter, which sounds a lot like Simon and Garfunkel television series. And he's now just recently had a song used on a Subaru commercial called Beautiful Day. And you've heard that commercial because the Subaru commercial was played over and over and over, but you may not have noticed or asked yourself, what's that song? And that's Joshua Radin. And the guy does tours constantly, makes a good living, he's millions of singles sold and downloads and stuff, and nobody's heard of him because he does not write radio singles. There you go.
Nick Drake, he did that Volkswagen commercial when it comes on.
Yeah, the Volkswagen commercial.
Yeah, when I listen to that,
Pink Moon.
The mood that music creates, the music really does a job on that. Like it makes me feel. I'm from the hood, and it makes me feel like I'm a beach guy, you know, ready to go out and party with those people.
Yeah.
It put me in a certain mood. It was pretty good. His I think it's his 25th anniversary, November 24th.
November 25th is something like 40th anniversary of death. I don't keep track anymore. It makes me feel old. Just so you know, he cut a song of mine called "Been Smoking Too Long." That was one of my songs that I wrote when I was about 18. So,
and it was a surprise to you when you heard it.
Yes, it was. Yes, it definitely was. And that particular commercial, which you remember, and that commercial was from 1999, and the song was Pink Moon. That commercial, people hit the Volkswagen website so hard trying to find out what that song was that it crashed the website. When they found out what it was, Nick Drake's sales suddenly rivaled in 1999, suddenly rivaled NSYNC, which was the #1 group at the time, because of that commercial. Suddenly, Nick Drake unfortunately had a career long after he was gone, and that career continued as AT&T also used From the Morning a little while later in a major commercial. And again, now we're looking again at a songwriter who was completely unknown when Volkswagen picked up that song, completely, and is only known really through the uses in film and television. I see some people know who he is, and there was a time when he had a huge career in the early 2000s, long after he was gone. But it's because his songwriting and his vocal style, which was very soft, and his moody atmosphere, but it's not unusual for our time. When you look at Conor Oberst, or you look at Joshua Radin, or Matthew Perryman Jones, or Ben Howard, some of these major artists. Are we still there? I just think I lost you. Yeah, I see everybody. Okay, your image just changed. So that's a really good example, and the fact that you remember that, Matt, that you remember that Pink Moon commercial is so amazing, because that was 15 or 16 years ago now. And yet it made a huge impression on millions of people. That's the power of commercials. And if you notice, Subaru in particular does a really good job of using songs in their commercials. Currently, they're using a singer-songwriter named Gregory Alan Isikoff, who you have probably never heard of, and a beautiful song, I forget the exact title, about time. I think it's called something like that. Time Has Told, something like that. It's beautiful. But who would ever have heard of this guy? I went and looked him up, and a lot of people have, and all of a sudden he's much better known than he was. So that's a little bit of history on me, and a little bit of history on TV commercials. So at this point, before I go into the specifics of how the melody and the lyrics and the production and the vocals are all different for film and television than they are for radio, which you're probably already beginning to figure out what that is. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask so far? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, Matthew Weiss, you said something about a softball question. Gotta unmute.
So I wasn't hoping you were going to specifically say that, but a softball question is a question where I know the answer, and I know that Robin knows the answer, but it's something that perhaps the listeners wouldn't know the answer to. I think
I
she's
didn't know
about.
what that meant, bruh.
I
That's
thought it was going to send me an easy question, you know. Heck, go
yeah.
ahead.
It's
So I,
basically it's easy questions. Those are softball questions. Uh, I mean, I think you're about to start getting into it, but I was going to ask you some questions about formatting and things like. But I think I should rather let you continue on your line of thought rather than interject because you might get to it anyway.
Well, are you going to talk about formatting? You mean what kinds of files that to pitch or how to pitch?
No, I mean structuring the
Oh
things
yeah,
like your 30 seconds, your 1 minute, 1 minute 30 seconds, endings like stingers and things like that. Stuff
yeah.
that people who are formatting for TV specifically should know about. But I suspect that you're going in that direction anyway.
Well,
So
that's a question. Actually, that question applies more to instrumentals. In fact, it applies really solely to instrumentals. As far as songs, it's a very good question because my answer may not be what you're expecting. As
sure.
far as songs, you want your song to sound just like you would want it to sound on your album. So edit points, the only thing you kind of want to watch out for is don't put a big splash symbol on the end of your verse going into your chorus. Wait till the beat one of the chorus, okay? So that they can edit in at the chorus. Because they will often use the first verse, which is really quiet, and they'll often edit right straight to the final chorus, which
Hmm.
is often a breakdown, and then it builds right to the end. And that works really well underneath scenes, just to answer your question real quickly. And yes, the ends of songs are like the ends of instrumental cues, in that they tend to use button endings. They would prefer it that you not fade out.
What is a
Just
button ending?
a button ending, also called a definitive ending, is where hold
Oh,
it until it fades out naturally.
I
we
And
didn't
think
hear
I
you. You
think
cut
the
out.
Google Hangout dropped out right as you were saying the exact answer.
okay, exact answer is a definitive ending or a button ending, which is very important on songs, is not a fade out. Don't fade out on as you repeat the tag ending of your song. Instead, what you want to do is hit a final chord and hold it. Hit a final drum beat or guitar strum, hold it until it naturally fades away, and end there. End on a definitive chord or note, rather than having a fade out like we used to do a lot in radio. Now I notice that a lot of hit songs have definitive endings, button endings they call them, because film and television has influenced radio. I think that's the reason. I'm not sure. Maybe radio doesn't like long fade outs anymore. I don't know. Um, Keep your intro short. If you want to have a long intro, you can. There are some songs that have long instrumental intros that get used as if they're underscore, um, but I wouldn't pitch it that way. I would do a short intro, and then if the music supervisor or the library likes it, you can say, oh, I have a version that has a long 45-second intro on it that's very moody and atmospheric. Would you like to hear that? And they'll usually say, yes, we'd like to hear that. Oh, and by the way, with all songs, be sure you make an instrumental mix, because sometimes they want to put something underneath dialogue and they don't want a vocal there, even though they'll often use a vocal down with a volume way down low, your song way down low volume, and then they'll rise it up for the chorus at the end of the scene, and then they'll use the final chorus so they get the button as the button ending as the scene fades to black. But other times they don't want anything on that verse. They don't want any vocal on that verse, and they will use the instrumental version of your song and edit to the final chorus. So be sure to make your instrumental mix at the same time as you make your final mix, because don't think you're going to come back later and do this. Any music library is going to say, send us an instrumental along with you must have an instrumental when you submit your vocal version. Just mute the vocals and make an instrumental mix so that it's identical. And the problem is, if you try to come back later and do an instrumental mix and you changed a piece of gear or you're doing things differently, it's not going to sound the same. And they need it to sound identical so that they can edit from that instrumental mix right into your vocal. That's those are the things that you're asking about, and I think those are really important things to remember. Definitive
I didn't
ending,
even
short
actually ask the
intros.
question. You just grabbed it.
Yeah.
That's how softball it was.
Did you did you not even get to the question? Wasn't that the question?
That was what the question was going to be. Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
You
Yeah,
already
because
knew.
it comes up with a lot of people. That question is a really important thing to ask. And I had to really research that to find out. And it's different. So I was hearing the Fray had had a hit song, I think, called "Never Say Never," something like that. It was a couple years ago, with a big button ending, with a big chord on the end. It's kind of a sus chord that they just hit and held out. It was really interesting how they went to that. And you hear it a lot. "Stronger, What Doesn't Kill You," that huge Kelly Clarkson hit from last year, it has a button ending, a definitive ending on it. And you would never have heard that 5 years ago. Would have heard a long tail fade out. So that gives the engineer, the music engineer, a chance to have a definitive ending if he wants it, because they can fade out anytime they want, but it's very difficult to create a natural sounding definitive ending. Very difficult to do that, and it's time consuming, and they don't like to do it. So give them one. Okay. Okay. Anybody else got a question before we hold on into?
I just have a follow-up to that. When you say to go ahead and have the vocals and an instrumental, do you suggest also doing like multiple mixes, like maybe the drums and just strings or anything like that, or is that primarily if you're only submitting instrumentals to these libraries?
You're asking whether you should mix them. It's very difficult to create a natural sounding. What's happening? Definitive.
Hold on a second.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Okay. Somebody jumped in without meeting.
Yeah,
okay.
That's okay. You're asking about stems. And
yes.
I would definitely say make stems, you might as well. As long as you're there, it just takes an extra 20 minutes or so to make a bunch of stems. I would do it because you never know what they're going to ask for.
Okay.
Background vocals, too. I would make the instrumental mix without any background vocals at all. And the reason why is because I would make a mix with and without, because you're hearing a lot of commercials now with what I call OAO vocals on them. Tons of them. I can't stop hearing. And now it's like on everything. Ameriprise Financial, I just came out with one, and the end of the commercial is just is the male vocal doing that thing that you hear on American Authors, Best Day of My Life. There's lots of oh. In fact, I think I've heard that line a few times now. And it's layered vocals. It's real pretty backup stuff, and there's no dialogue. So they really like that for commercials because they can talk over it, but it still creates that human warmth. So that's a trick. That's a tip to give that a shot. If you're doing cues, instrumental cues, think about doing some cues with some OAO vocals on them if you're going to be pitching to commercials, because they just love that stuff. It's very uplifting. So make a version with background vocals, especially if you have those kind of OAO background vocals. If they're sung, if they're words, then I would not keep them in, because that's the reason they're looking for instrumental. And yeah, do the stems and tell them you've got stems. Anything you can do that says, hey, I'm a pro and I know what I'm doing, will make a music library very happy. It will make them like you a lot, because they get a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, I'm telling you. So just what we're talking about today, just that information is a huge, giant step towards giving music libraries the kinds of things they need. A definitive ending, a short intro, I got the stems, I got an instrumental mix, I'm all set to go, is a great, a big plus for you.
Now, with button endings, would you also, if there's a natural fade, like say for instance, I just submitted something and it has a definitive chord, but it also has an element that kind of has a natural tail on it. Is it okay to leave those in there?
Absolutely, leave the natural tail on there, because they can't recreate that. That's exactly the thing. And by the way, when you have somebody on here who's talking about underscore and cues, they'll tell you as far as length, which the fellow who was talking to me before asked about length. For songs, it doesn't matter. The song is has its own natural life, whether it's 2 minutes or it's 4 minutes or 4.5 or 5. That's okay. But when you're doing cues, the natural ring out needs to be finished before you hit that 30-second mark. So I tell people aim for 29.5 seconds to have your ring out thoroughly out. Same thing for a 30-second. For a 60-second, make it 59.5, and make sure that that tail is completely gone by the half-second mark, so that they have a little bit of room. Just a little side thing there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Okay,
Robin,
so let's.
can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, this is Brian. This is probably kind of off the cuff, but what can a person expect to make monetary-wise, and what's the lead time? You're talking about, you know, submitting this information and getting their attention. Is there some type of number that you can put to the amount of money one can make from one placement? You know, obviously you've made a career out of it. Can you kind of give some numbers there and give us a little insight on that?
Yeah, I can. It's very, very vague because it totally depends on how big the audience is for the show. So, for example, if you're licensing a song to, let's say, a Grey's Anatomy, the licensing fee all in for the master use and the sync, the song, is going to be anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000. $2,000 being more like it. If you're on that's a major show. If you're on a cable, like ABC Family, those shows, Chasing Life, Pretty Little Liars, those are the ones that are on right now. Those are going to probably pay $1,000 around there. That's what you should look at. Daytime television may not pay you anything. They may pay you $100 or nothing. They have to pay you something if it's if they're going to have a contract with you, they need to pay you something. But it could be a very low, and then you're looking at how many your initial play on air broadcast may bring you, if it's a featured performance, that's what's going to make the difference in your performance royalties. If it's in the background in a cafe scene, it's going to be paid like a background cue, and composers could probably tell you more about that. If it's featured, which is the kind of use that you want, so if it's a featured use, then you could be making $1,700 for your network. It's another $1,700 or $1,500. And same for cable, it's the $1,200 to $1,500. But then it syndicates and it goes out into foreign, and it depends on how big those audiences are. In Germany, they pay you more than they do in Greece, because the audience is bigger.
Is there follow-on residuals that come again, or is it a one-time type payment?
No, but that's what I'm talking about. It's when it reruns, then when it goes into syndication, and then when it goes into foreign. Those are all paid again and again and again. Those are performance royalties. But I'll tell you honestly, the biggest money, as far as I'm concerned, is actually in iTunes downloads. And you're only going to get those if the song is a featured performance, is up full. In other words, they can hear the chorus. It's underneath a montage, so they can hear a verse and a chorus. Those are the placements you really want, because those are the placements that turn into iTunes downloads. And I've talked to people who've said to me, I do know that Keep Breathing, which was a major up full featured performance, did result in 100,000 downloads. Another one on Vampire Diaries that I know for sure resulted in 20,000 iTunes downloads, purchases in the following week. So that's a Vampire Diaries kind of sales. That's where the money is. And those are the hardest ones to get because there are fewer of them than the kinds of, hey, they played my song in the background on Big Bang Theory, which one of my friends got that. And you couldn't hear it. You really couldn't hear it at all. It was so frustrating to know you got something placed in Big Bang Theory, but you couldn't hear it. That happens a lot.
Do you do the complete composition? In other words, perform it. If you have,
it's breaking up.
Bring in outside musicians. Do you? I said, when do you your work? Do you write the lyrics, the music, perform it, do it all in your own studio, or is it something that you kind of work with a team of musicians? And how do you split any final income with them?
Good question. The less you can split, with others, the less you spend, the more money you can make, because the money's low, as you can see. So I will usually, when I co-write, I keep it as in-house as I can. I'll go outside and hire a cello player, because there's no way to do that. If it's featured, there's no way to do that without bringing in my favorite cello player. Other than that, though, or fiddle. If I need featured fiddle, I'm going to have to bring in a live fiddle player, violin. But other than that, I try to co-write with people who are good singers, because my singing days are kind of, unfortunately, over. But I will look for somebody who has a unique voice, a very authentic feel to their voice. They sound like a real artist who could be played on any of these shows. I look for that, and I will co-write with them, because I can write a song. I don't really need a co-writer to write the song. I need a co-writer with a voice, and if the co-writer can also provide me with a basic piano or guitar tracks, then I'm happy, and I will do all the sweetening and the mixing myself. So between the two of us, we cover everything. So you want to look at your strengths and your weaknesses as far as the film and television market is concerned. So what is it that you can do, and what do you need a co-writer to do? If you need a youthful, contemporary vocal style, and we all need that, then you're going to have to co-write or hire somebody to do that.
Okay, when you mentioned that you don't, why is it that you use a live violin or live cello versus, you know, some of the samples and the keyboard available synthesized stuff that sounds very, very realistic? Why, why go there?
This gets us right to the heart. Good question, because this takes us right to the heart of what makes film and television songs successful, what makes libraries want them, what makes music supervisors know when they hear a song they could use it at some point, even if they don't have a use for it right away. And the operative word that all music supervisors use with me is authenticity. It is the key word when you're talking about film and television songs. It must sound like an authentic singer who's an artist with emotions have to all sound authentic. All of the playing, all of the parts have to sound authentically real, unless you're going for a synthetic sound. But there is no, I am telling you now, there is no program, no sample library, nothing that can give you a solo cello or violin that's believable as a featured instrument at any part in a song. The minute one of those things comes on, I immediately pull back from it, because you can tell from no matter how good you are, doing a solo violin is really hard. You can do solo electric guitar on keyboards, but I have yet to hear a violin solo on keyboard. So when it comes to having a featured player, I have a let's say I have a song called Stronger Than Love, and it's a really unique male vocal. I love this guy. His name is Whitebrow. And then I needed a violin, a fiddle player, like an old-time sitting on the back porch, but mournful. I needed that to interweave with him. And so I had to find somebody who could do that. And I'm telling you that a guy named Kurt Baumer, who is online, his website is called fiddletracks.com. For $100, Kurt Baumer, who plays with like Lone Star, this guy is so good. You can get him to do that for $100, and you tell him what you need, and he does it. Yeah.
And that came, you got that file over the internet then, assumably. So
yes, I did.
that small sonic difference between the synthesized instrument and something that you've got recorded and then a file handed to you, there's enough in a difference sonically that this makes that impact?
Yes, you want to train your ear to hear what works for film and television. There are things that we can emulate orchestras, and I mean, you can't tell when some of these orchestral emulations are amazing. But when you're doing singer-songwriter, you may only be using acoustic guitar and fiddle. That song is that I did, just bass, acoustic rhythm guitar, some acoustic guitars in the background, and then fiddle and vocal. That's all. So when you're doing that, then every nuance has to be authentically, emotionally human. And believe me when I tell you, music supervisors will hear it. They will hear it. I think people sometimes make the mistake, no, I'm not talking about you, but I'm saying in general, we make a mistake, and I used to make it too, of thinking that we could cut corners and, oh gosh, you know, these people in film and television, they're just knob twiddlers, and we underestimate people in the music industry sometimes, and we think that they're just in it for the money or they're in it for the greed. That's not true. Music supervisors are people who love music. They love it and they know it. They know music better than I ever will. They know, the music supervisors who work on shows like Grey's Anatomy, they know contemporary singer-songwriter. They are encyclopedias of it. And they know the cutting edge. They know artists I can't even find on the internet. And they'll go, oh yeah, you should hear this. And if I ask them where they got it, they won't always tell me where they found that. They keep their sources very close to the vest. And they really know it. So we cannot trick them, or we shouldn't try to. But if you want a synthy sounding, if you want something that sounds like a synthesizer, go for it. Go all the way for it. Don't pretend that it's not. Pretend doesn't work very well in film and television.
You're mentioning the stringed instruments, violin and cello. Are there any other specific instruments, most likely drums, better live, or with the current, recordings and samplings?
Yeah, as long as we're talking about production, let's just stay there for a while, because I was going to go there anyway. There's a lot of contemporary singer-songwriter stuff that's being done with loops, and they're not pretending to be a drum kit. If you're in alt rock, you may want to use live drum. Indie rock, for sure, you have to use live drums. I don't think indie rock can be done with anything other than live drums. And there's so many great online drummers. I mean, you just got to find one that's really, really contemporary and play him a reference. This is what I'm looking for, because a lot of people are dated, and you have to be very careful with drums that they give you that indie rock groove and that indie rock feel and attitude. Every musician on the gig, not to mention the singer, has to have character. And it's the character that, because the song becomes another character in the scene. So when you're watching Vampire Diaries, is very good at this, and the music supervisor for that, Chris Muller, is excellent, absolutely excellent. Every song that's played in there, when it comes up full, if you're going to really hear it, it's almost like another character, and it's got to fit with the other characters in the scene, and the song has to fit with those characters. And most of those characters are young, they're youthful, so your vocalist needs to sound almost as if he or she could be in that scene and could be part of it. The same holds true, and this is what we forget, the same holds true for every player, every musician in that, every live musician. But when you get into drums, I noticed that we're using a lot of drums that sound like muffled kick drums. We're doing a lot with muffled kicks now. We're doing a lot of just constant 4 on the floor kick drum, and then shaker. And these shaker loops are perfectly fine. And because we're very much into the rhythm cannot vary. The rhythm has to be rock steady, and it almost has a clock-like feel. And of course, great drummers can do that. But that's what listeners are used to now. So that's why it's so important to do the research I was talking about earlier. When you go over to TuneFind and you start looking at the songs that are used and the artists that are used in some of these top TV shows, go to Spotify, and I'm sorry to bring up Spotify, but I will tell you, if Spotify's not going to pay us much money, damn it, we're going to save money in our research. I used to have to, and I'm sure some of you remember, what we used to have to do if we wanted to study a hit song, we had to buy the CD for $13. Now you can just go to Spotify and listen to it. So if they're not going to pay me, at least they're going to save me some money when I go to study songs. I squeeze all that out of them. So I go over to Spotify, I look up that artist, and for example, I had not heard of Aaron Wright, and Grey's Anatomy has used Aaron Wright 3 times in the last season. So I'm going to be going over and checking out Aaron Wright, whose stuff I really love. And I'm listening to him, and I'm going, oh, wow, this is not live drums. This is a clock-like, unique sounds that are not necessarily attempting to be drums. There's light percussion, or there's some ethnic styles, or we're just not even pretending. We're just putting some really interesting sounds in there that create a beautiful rhythmic feel. Sometimes we don't have drums at all. Sometimes they're just creating the rhythmic feel with a soft synthesizer, all kinds of things. Rhythm seems to be in its own world as far as the singer-songwriter and pop genre goes, and of course EDM. But when you get into indie rock, some of these drum-driven rock styles, yes, you're going to have to use a live drummer. So take a listen, because another thing that we're using in a lot of these things, if you want to hear something that's really out there, check out Agnes Obel, O-B-E-L, and listen to her song Dorian, which I adore. And it's been used in 5 or 6 different TV series. And another song I'm just taking a look at, real hard look at, is a song called Medicine by a group called Daughter. Just D-A-U-G-H-T-E-R, Daughter. Another one that's been used in a lot of TV shows. And you'll notice that these 2 songs in particular create moody atmosphere, moody, dark atmosphere. Take a look at how they're creating the rhythm, because almost always now all our songs have rhythm in them. Very few things out there that change tempo or don't have a rhythm pulse, a rhythmic pulse of some kind driving them. Even these moody atmospheric things. And I noticed that that song Medicine, when you hear it, it's so dark, but it's been used in So You Think You Can Dance. I have no idea what dance they would do to this, but there you have it. These things are quite different, again, than anything that will be played on the radio. Sit with it and take a look at how it's produced, what instruments are being used, where they come in, where they go out. What's the vocal like? How are they creating character with that vocal? Both of those are female vocalists. How are they creating character with that vocal and atmosphere with that vocal and keeping you listening? What's the melody doing different from what radio does? Well, it's leaving lots of space, which radio melodies never do anymore. Radio melodies are total forward momentum. But in film and television, melodies can take long pauses. Okay? Now, take a look at what the lyrics are doing to create that moody atmospheric feel. Are they and vivid images and kind of associating emotions together and not really saying anything that you can follow linearly, which happens a lot in film and television? They create mood. If you want to backtrack, reverse engineer songs from film and television, that's the way to do it. Let me mention to you, by the way, that what I just did, I said, look at the production, look at the vocal, look at what the lyrics are doing, what the melody is doing, and take a look at what the chord progressions are doing. They're very, very simple and repetitive. And take a look at the structure, too. Film and television songs do not generally have big, fully developed choruses the way we do on radio. They don't have as much contrast in the melody that grabs attention the way we do on radio. And that's because they're busy underscoring and enhancing a scene. They're not grabbing attention for the song. So that's how you reverse engineer a song that's successful for film and television. It's what I do in my book, Shortcuts to Hit Songwriting, and Shortcuts to Songwriting for Film and TV. And if you're interested, you can go over to my website, robinfrederick.com, or mysongcoach.com. Either one of them. I have 2 websites. And right there you can sign up for my email. And every 2 months I send out an email where I reverse engineer a hit song or a film and television song. And you can see how I do that. And if you're interested and you want to do it now, you can go over to Amazon and buy my ebook, Study the Hits. And I reverse engineer 25 songs in there. And you can see how I do that. Okay?
And this is where I say...
I will, thank you. Time today.
I'm sorry.
For time today, appreciate it.
It's breaking up a little bit.
Again, we're stepping on each other. I was just saying thank you for your time today. Appreciate you being here. And, I'll definitely follow up on some of this advice. Thank you.
Good. You betcha. Okay, so Matt, I went lightly through lyrics and melody. What would you folks like me to do? Do you want me to go deeper into that, structured lyrics and melody, or?
Well, I was about to say, this is where I say, Ashley Littlejohn, I'm going to need my book back so I can study. She has Robin's book. I let her borrow it.
Oh, that's who has it.
And she's been going through that book like crazy.
It's the only way to do it, is to sit there and reverse engineer these songs yourself, because that's how you teach yourself.
Yeah, please talk more about that.
Okay. Okay.
Please talk more about that reverse engineering. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intervene, but my name is Robert Beal. And I was really intrigued by the study the hits plus the 30 new songwriting shortcuts. But then you started talking about reverse engineering. And a lot of times when I'm watching a lot of these
to break up,
TV
I'm losing
shows.
everybody.
Oh, sorry about that. Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. A lot of times when I'm looking at movies or TV shows, I kind of make the underscore, the music, the feature thing for me. So I'm hearing the script as they're speaking, but I'm really listening for a hook, or I'm listening for something that would catch my ear musically, even if it's just a string line, a certain chord or a certain arpeggio, something that really captures my mind, because it helps inspire me to write something different for something I want to do.
Yeah, good.
Can you talk more about reverse engineering? Would that be relative to reverse engineering?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. The hardest thing to do with film and television, but you're already doing it, is to not get so lost in the storyline that you don't notice that there's music playing underneath. So many people, I can't believe how many people, yeah, I can, who say to me when I say, they use a lot of songs in television series that you probably watch, and they go, oh, they do? And I'll say, well, do you watch Grey's Anatomy? They go, yeah. Well, they use songs in Grey's Anatomy. Oh, yeah, they do. And I'm talking to a songwriter, So I've used that show as an example, but literally I read a list right at the beginning of about 15 shows. But there have been 240 TV series this year alone that have used songs. Now, some of those songs are way in the background in cafe scenes and stuff, but you want to really focus on those shows that use songs up full, especially at the beginning or the end of the show, which is when a lot of times they'll bring that song up and put a montage over it, or wrap up a whole bunch of emotional themes at that point. I don't tend to watch a lot of TV. It's just too time consuming, and I actually don't like a lot of these shows. So that's why I find TuneFind so important for me, is that I can go over to tunefind.com and I can look up the shows I'm interested in, whether that's Empire or Nashville, or it's one of those more unusual shows like Chasing Life, which is new. I think they're in their second season and has a lot of great song uses. So I pretty much identify the shows that use this kinds of songs that I write or I'm interested in studying. And then I get the names of those songs that are being used in the show, and especially when the description says end of show or final scene or montage, then I'm really looking. And then I go over to Spotify and I look at those things. There are 7. Let's see if I can remember them all. I don't have my list in front of me. There are 7 elements that go to make up the emotional impact or atmospheric or energy impact of a song. And one is, of course, rhythm and tempo. Is it up tempo? Is it slow tempo? Is it a 16th note groove? Is it swung? Is it straight? Because so much of what we feel comes from rhythm. And then take a look at the chord progression. Is it primarily major or primarily minor? How are they creating that major or minor feel? How many of the chords in what order? What chord does it start on? What chord is being emphasized and held? What chord is being played on the notes that are emphasized and the words that are emphasized? Because that'll give it that major or minor feel. In other words, a generally uplifting feel, happy, optimistic, or a generally sad, resigned, down feel. Literally, major, minor, okay? And once you have that feel, how do they keep maintaining that? Do they change the chords a lot? Probably not. Probably it's very repetitive chord progressions, and that's one of the ways we maintain a single emotional focus in these songs. So take a look at the chord progression. Then, jumping around a lot. Is it emphasizing the notes within the basic triad, or is it going to a lot of notes that are in between the notes of the major triad? Meaning, are we making a lot of cluster chords there? That was Nick Drake's big trick, is to create these cluster chords and extensions vocally. Very unusual. And if you start looking at his stuff, I learned so much when I finally went back and really reverse engineered his songs. And take a look at how the melody fits within the chord. When you're putting notes within the notes in between the notes of the triad, you're creating a much more complex, sophisticated, ambivalent feeling. When you're singing the notes of the triad itself, you feel something as simple as that can help you create a melody and a song that expresses the emotion that you want listeners to feel. You want viewers to feel. Okay, that's just a couple of things you can look at with melody. Then lyrics, reverse engineer the lyrics. Sometimes this stuff gets wild. I mean, some of it, like, you know, the Shins or Hosier. I mean, that Take Me to Church thing. Oh my God, what an amazing lyric that thing is. Because the images, the bleeding and the knife and then church and then, I mean, just magnificent lyric in that thing. And you take a look at that, not only did it become a hit, but when it's stripped down and the live version gets used in film and television. Same thing, for example, by the way, since I'm talking about that, take a look at Just Breathe by Pearl Jam. And that's the song that gets used the most of Pearl Jam's entire repertoire, because it's stripped down. And it does all the things that I'm talking about. It creates a single emotional feel with the tempo, the groove, the chords, the melody, the lyrics. All of it works together. And then the production can be very stripped down, because the production's not doing a lot of the work here. Again, if you're doing something for a nightclub scene, for source music, that's different. But when you're doing song score, this is about creating mood, creating energy, creating atmosphere. We're looking at these things. So we're looking at the rhythm, the chords, the melody, the lyrics. Then take a look at the vocal style. For film and television, remember I said it's character. It's much more about character than it is about singing perfectly. You'll hear a lot of stuff that's very pitchy, but they get away with it because it's in character for the singer. So when you have that, like a Tom Waits, you can have somebody, Miko, M-E-I-K-O. Listen to a song of hers called Reasons to Love. When I play that separately from scenes, it's pitchy. It's very pitchy. She's not a particularly good singer. But when I put that with one of the many scenes it has been used with, it creates a sense of youthfulness, innocence, an untrained vocal that sounds completely natural, as if it's just coming out of the singer. And if you put her in a scene with youthful characters, it sounds like she's one of them. If you tried to replace her song with a song like At Last by Etta James, what a brilliant, fabulous song that is. But if you put that song in, all of a sudden everything's wrong. Everything's wrong. The characters look older. The singer doesn't belong in the scene. It's all too sophisticated and smoothed out. So you can have a magnificent song like that doesn't work to create the emotional mood that the scene, the director wants. Okay, so take a listen to these singers. That's why some of those pitchy vocals work. Or some of those vocalists that you might say, the singers here might say, wow, that would never work at radio. You're right, that would never work at radio. It works at college radio. Some of the college radio stuff is pretty pitchy. But it works for film and television if it's authentic for the singer's character. So put it with a scene, and you'll see right away. When you watch the TV show that has it in it, you'll see right away. But if you take that song out of there, it will work for the college market, but it won't work for mainstream radio. That's for sure.
I did a photo shoot with a rapper, female here. Oh, Matthew, you're off. Did you want to say anything before you headed out, Matthew?
Just thank you very much, Robin, for stopping on in.
You're welcome.
That lady in the background can
Lady
sing very
Gaga
good.
is particularly good at that.
Very awesome. Hold up 1 second, Brad. The lady in the background, Matthew's lady, sings awesome. We have to get her on here sometime. You got to come on here sometime and sing for us or something.
Okay, we'll set it up. All right. See y'all.
I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna throw it to Brad. Wait, Brad. What were you about to say?
Yeah, I want to hear from him.
Yeah.
Based on what I just said.
Brad, unmute yourself, please. What were you about to say? You got to unmute yourself, Brad.
Oh, he was there.
While he's doing that, I was just about to say we did a couple of photo shoots with one of our artists, a rapper named Chrissy, and we're going through the pictures. We picked the pictures. We're like, oh, these are awesome. We started playing a song. When we started playing this song that we thought these pictures would go with, nah, it ended up being a total different set of pictures, and one in particular just moved us. Yes.
Check.
We hear you, Brad.
Check. Can you hear me?
Yes, Brad, we hear you.
I did.
Okay, hold on 1 sec, Brad. We hear you.
Yes, I did. Oh, wait a minute.
Brad, can you hear me?
I'm there.
Can you hear me, Brad? Okay, Brad can't hear me. But when we put the picture up, and we were looking at the picture, listening to the song, a total different set of pictures worked, and then one just really said it all. The song and this picture, it was like, okay, no, that's it. That's the album. But without that song, it was just,
Okay, got me now.
Yeah.
What I wanted to
Yeah, you were doing it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brad. Brad, go ahead.
It's a long delay.
He's hearing it delayed.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Brad, we'll let you.
Can you back now? Okay.
I saw you on that talk, Cats.
Oh, my bad.
What's up, man?
Brad, go ahead.
I was just Facebooking Dre right now. What's up, man? Okay, good.
Let me type. I'll type it over him over here. Let him know to go ahead and ask away.
Legend Dre the most.
I was just saying, Lady Gaga is particularly good. Lady Gaga is particularly. There's a long delay. Yeah. I was just saying, Lady Gaga is particularly good at being able to dumb down her voice, and as she dumbs down her voice, it creates all different kinds of colors. Then when she wants to sing something clear and clean, then it has that sophistication you're saying. So I understand completely and agree with completely that there's a different use for every vocal style and feel.
Great to hear you say that. Really great to hear you say that. Because I've watched you, by the way, I've watched you on one of Matt's, one of these Google Hangouts, and I was really, really impressed with the things that you were saying, because too often we put a premium on being a little too careful about how we sing, and not enough attention paid to what that voice has to express to the listener in order to make the song, give the song as much impact as possible. And Lady Gaga, she's an actress. I mean, I tell people, it has a lot to do with acting, and not just thinking about your throat. To lose yourself in the lines and act. And sometimes I recommend that people take acting classes when they really can't get to that place where they loosen up enough to express themselves. Film and television absolutely have to have that. You have to have that. And that's why when you listen to some of these singers, and you're kind of shocked by how gritty and gravelly and raw, for example, the vocal is, that kind of song is going to work well on a show like Longmire, where the lead character is himself gritty and raw, and that works really well. Thank you. I'm glad you agree with that, Brad. I appreciate it. Okay, Matt, let's see. Do you want to, the last thing in my list of 7 after vocals is production. And
as a matter of fact, on the vocals, you were speaking about. I've got to walk while I talk. We're about to have some guys coming in. But you had went out as you were talking about vocals, the triad.
It was on the melody part. On the melody part, you cut out. Were you saying like to have the melody going along with the triad, or were you saying like when you're doing more of a contrapuntal type thing with your melodies and your triads? Because it kind of
I don't know if
the audio
this,
went out.
but I also wanted to say that
we've got to get Brad up on this.
Yeah. Yeah, because I want to be sure that everybody gets the answer to that, the correct answer. I know I went by it rather quickly, and it's really a very interesting concept. When you write a melody for a song, and you are mainly emphasizing the notes that are in the underlying triad, that song is going to have a simple, youthful, direct, uncomplicated emotional feel. When you want to have a song with more sophistication, and I'll tell you a good example, is listen to that Miko song I mentioned. Again, it's M-E-I-K-O, M-E-I-K-O, and the name of the song is Reasons to Love You.
Yeah, Reasons to Love, yeah.
Yeah, you'll hear exactly that. Now, if you want to hear something different, a melody that's much more sophisticated, and in some ways more complex emotionally, then check out, for example, At Last by Etta James. I was in fact talking about vocal styles when I was talking about those 2 songs, but it works for the melody as well. When you start looking at a melody like that, you're going to hear a lot of notes that land in between the notes of the triad. Oh, Nick Drake constantly does this. He sings the notes that are outside of the triad. The 7th or the 9th. A lot of times his melodies will emphasize those notes, and that's what gives Nick Drake songs that tremendously ambivalent emotional quality. The emotions are complex and they're floating, and we're not sure what he's feeling. It's somewhere between warmth and darkness. That works very well for a lot of TV scenes. That's why Nick Drake's songs are so popular in film and television, is he creates these very moody, ambivalent melodies. And that's a very good contrast to Miko's song, Reasons to Love You. And you can hear the difference between a complex, ambivalent emotional state versus a simple, usually youthful, straightforward, often optimistic, if you're emphasizing major chords. And so when you're writing your melody, go ahead and write what you feel the emotion should be. But then if it's not quite working, go back and think about rewriting your melody using either more of the triad or less of the triad. This is a rewriting tip. A lot of the things I talk about are for rewriting, because initially I want you to write what you feel. Write the emotion as it comes out of you. Then treat that as a first draft. Then go in and say, how can I give it more of that emotion, more of that atmosphere, more of that energy? So write what you feel first, then rewrite using the tips that I'm giving you today. Don't ever walk away from your intuition and try to write from craft first. I wanted to be sure I mentioned that before we go today, before we leave, so that everybody has that, okay?
So can you hear me now?
I can, and I hear you perfectly.
I'm in time. I also want to just say, you're nowhere near too old to be singing your own music.
Bless your heart.
No, seriously. I have 56-year-old woman singing Big Sky, that Pink Floyd song. Your vocal cords are amazing. They can do extravagant things well into your 60s if you keep your health up.
Yeah, it's the health problem. I have asthma, and it's
Oh,
hard for me to breathe. That's the problem. But thank you. And yes, you are absolutely right. And I still do some vocals. And I
okay.
absolutely I can youth up my vocal cords enough. And besides, there are some singers now, as we film and television, you will hear some singers like Joy Williams from the Civil Wars. If you listen to her voice, she's not trying to be younger than she is. And you do hear this. Cheryl Wheeler is another one. They're out there, and they get used in shows like Grey's Anatomy, where you have an older cast. Parenthood, you would hear them. So you do not have to pretend that you're 14 or 16 or anything like that. You can be a really good singer. It all comes down to how you express the emotion in the song with your voice, which I'm really happy to hear you chime in on. So production, I just want to make sure, because that's the seventh part of this emotional stew that we're talking about. And I want to make the point before we go that for you producers out there, again, source music is different. It's all about being realistic to whatever the genre is that you're working in. But if you're doing if you're doing source music, which is generally tends towards the stripped down end of the spectrum, then you want to think about literally stripping it down. I mentioned earlier that the song of Pearl Jam's that gets used the most is called Just Breathe. And if you listen to Just Breathe, you'll hear that magnificent vocal, because Eddie Vedder is one of the great character vocalists that we have. And he has by the way, he has an entire solo album called Ukulele Songs. If you're ever thinking of writing songs with just ukulele, check out Eddie Vedder's Ukulele Songs. It's magnificent. It came out in 2011. A lot of these songs were used in the movie Into the Wild. So you can strip it all the way down to just guitar and vocal if you have an interesting enough singer and an interesting enough song, and you affect the guitar a little bit. Maybe you build it with just adding a second guitar part of the way through at the second chorus, something like that. And if you, by the end of the song, if you've managed to make sure that you keep that song compelling. There are songs with just electric guitar and vocal. There's a song called Murmur in My Heart by Eddie Harcourt that's been used in a lot of film and television. It's just electric guitar and vocal. So don't be afraid to strip it down to the bare bones so that the vocalist is everything in film and television. Because again, the vocalist has to be the character who is actually speaking the thoughts and the feelings of what's going on in the scene. The song can say things that characters can't say, because we humans tend to be a little bit restrained when we're actually talking to each other, and it wouldn't sound natural if a character opened up and said, "I am so amazingly in love with you, I can't stand it." But a song can say that. "I am so amazingly in love with you." Yeah. So a vocalist can say things in a song, and all you have to do is put music with it, and we viewers just go for it. I mean, we just get lost in it. Same thing with Foo Fighters. The most used song of theirs is called Home, and that's piano vocal with a little bit of strings that they bring in, which I think is a big mistake. I didn't think they should do that. It kind of wrecked it for me. But again, if you do rock or you do dance and you want to strip it down so that you just sing the guitar vocal version unplugged, you're much more likely to get those songs picked up by a music library or get them used than you are, and get more money for them, better uses, than if you can put out both versions. So when you take a look at cover songs, for example, it's a magnificent cover of a song called Mad World, which was a hit in the 1980s. Cover songs are a really good thing to do. Make it your own. Do something completely unique with it. The cover of Mad World is by Gary Jules, comes from the film Danny Darko, and it's just electric piano and voice, and it's magnificent. If you want to hear that, just go over to YouTube and type in Mad World, Gary Jules, Jules, and beautiful video on that as well. And I think it's Donnie Darko, excuse me. And that's a great cover. Cat Power does a cover of Sea of Love on out-of-tune auto harp and vocal. That's it. I wouldn't recommend that. Cat Power could get away with it. And it got used in a Lincoln commercial, folks. So there's a huge, much more creative range for you here, is what I'm trying to say, than in hit radio, where you are really constrained. And film and television, as long as you're expressing emotion, atmosphere, or energy in an authentic way, you can go anywhere you want. Themes like Naked as We Came, which is about making your plans for when you die, by Iron and Wine. It's used all the time in television. You would never hear that on the radio. These stripped down, raw things, you would never hear them on the radio, but you will hear them in film and television. So you get to let your creativity go wild on these things and go deeper and deeper and deeper into emotions that you want to express. For film and TV, you can sing. Brad is right. In film and television, voices that are unique and unusual and are expressive, really, literally, anybody can go there, as long as you're not afraid to reveal what you really feel. Can take you there and help you release that into your songs, because that's crucial to what you're doing. So that's basically, in a nutshell, that's film and television writing, folks. I think that's about it. If you have questions, I haven't been reading the chat here. I haven't been able to focus on that, but if you have questions, jump in.
We've got several questions for you, but you had talked about live instrumentation. I had a rapper in here named KO just the other day. I posted on Facebook. He was listening to Steely Dan. Or no, he was. I posted a video of him listening to Chicago's greatest hits, and I said hip hop studying. And some people posted. Well, basically, they were hitting me up in messages saying, what do you mean hip hop studying? What do you mean? It's like they couldn't grasp the idea that you go and study people who put out great works and try to pull from that. And,
yes.
So we were listening to Chicago, Steely Dan, is it Asia?
Yeah.
Greatest Steely Dan album ever.
And
yes,
then,
I'll go for that.
And then we were listening to the long version of Papa Was the Rolling Stones, The Temptations.
Ooh. Ooh.
I was explaining that back then when that was made, there was a big controversy. It was too long. And they were back, like we're in this short thing right now where it's got to be short and attention span is short. Well, they had 2 minute and 30-second songs. Like they had real short songs back then, and yet here they come out with this 12-minute song that they had to reduce down, and they still kept it long. And so everything that the stuff we're going through now, it's been gone through back in the past, and people went and broke rules and kicked. But a lot of these people, when they did stuff, they did it at a high level. Like they really worked at their craft and put out something that was like, wow.
I want to say something about that because you bring up a really good point. A lot of people, many, including myself back in the day when I was really starting out, believe that in order to be authentic, you should not study other people who are successful or use things that you find in other ideas, techniques that you find and adapt to your own songs, that in fact what's authentic is the first thing that comes out of you. This is not true. The first thing that comes out of you is often just what you embedded in your teenage years in particular. But during the past, when you've listened to a lot of music, you've embedded a lot of ideas without realizing it. And what the first thing that comes out of you is often just one of those things coming back, coming to consciousness, bubbling out, and blah, there it goes. Too many people stop there, when in fact those ideas are actually very derivative and generic. That's why a lot of songs sound very generic to me. When people play things for me, I'll go, man, this is so derivative. And they didn't even realize it. Thank you. They thought they were being original because it was what came to them. But the truth is, your most authentic self begins to develop after you study over and over and over successful artists that you like. I tell people, some people say you should also study artists you don't like, and there's not enough time in life. Just study what you like. And then notice how they solve problems, how they write melodies. take those ideas and techniques and apply them to your own style. Once you get enough choices going, then your authenticity guides you towards which choices you make. That's how you become authentic. You develop it, you're not born with it. And people really put the cart before the horse. They get that backwards. There's a wonderful book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, K-L-E-O-N. I really enjoyed it. It's very easy to read. And I just, in my latest newsletter, how to study hits, which is what I'm doing all the time anyway in my books, how to study the hits and take what you want from that and what you love from that and embed it by playing the song, getting it under your skin. It's very physical, writing songs, and getting it embedded in your body and giving yourself more choices so that when you go to write your song, those choices come up for you automatically. You can't be sitting there thinking, now, what was that thing on page 236 that Robin said in her book? You can't be doing that. You have to have these things embedded in your body and your mind so that when you're writing, you go, oh, I know where I want to go. And it's a choice that came up for you, and that's when you really start to see your own authenticity is there.
When you talk about authenticity, I call it the knee-jerk response. So I say to you, or I say to somebody, okay, somebody puts a gun to your head, what will you do? And they immediately, oh, I'll do this, and then, yeah, I pull a gun out, put it to their head, or have some friend that's some thug come in and pull a gun out, and that person flies out the room, because the honesty is not there, and you have to actually look deeper below the surface.
Oh, yeah.
And like when I have people here, they'll say stuff, and I'll actually test them on what they say, and they'll find out that they're very dishonest with themselves, and they actually believe their dishonesty, and we have to get past that.
You are so right. That's the most amazing thing about being a songwriter is that you have to be honest and constantly learning more about yourself as you grow and stay current. You have to stay current with yourself. At the same time as you stay current with music and you stay current with the market and all that, it's extraordinarily challenging. There is never a day when I am not learning. And it's what I love about it. I've been doing this for 40 plus years, and it's what I love about it. And,
May I?
And yes, please do jump in.
I just want to say, to me, the best way to stay current is to go retro. You got to study the artists like Steely Dan. You got to study Chicago and Peter Cetera, and you got to study those people and the way they wrote and the emotion that was displayed, because it seemed like the instruments and the lyrics married to each other. They just were married, and if you don't know your past, you have no way of handling the future, because those artists made things that worked. And to me, the only way to stay current is to know how the old school did it. And I pretty much, I've written many songs being inspired by Steely Dan and sometimes by Donny Hathaway. And then sometimes it might have been Engelbert Humperdinck. It might have been a commercial I've seen. Hunker, hunker, burning love. Could have been something, and Robert, you just don't know.
When you say that, Robert, real quick, when you say that, Robert, for me, what it is this old school stuff gives us tools, gives us more options for us to express ourselves and be ourselves. So if I'm able to operate at a level 1, then I go study this stuff, and I'm able to get out more stuff and operate at a level 3 as myself, I'm actually current, because I live in this day and time, I speak this language, and I just have to be able to get out me more, and that's how this stuff helps.
I also think just being your authentic self, and taking those influences and applying it to your authentic self, and being authentic with yourself as you're writing, and that actually helps you to stay current as well, and being who you are.
There's a couple of things. Interestingly, we're in a period of time when the charts are heavily influenced with a retro influence. So Meghan Trainor, like I'm Gonna Lose You, that's right out of Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell duets. It's an amazing throwback. And in fact, everything she does is kind of a pop doo-wop throwback. A lot of Neon Trees, Everybody Talks, a throwback. A lot of almost everything Bruno Mars does is heavily throwback. So we're in a period when knowing those artists is a huge hit, a huge plus. for us who grew up with those of us who grew up with those artists. What I hear sometimes, my one concern with that is that people who are now in their 20s do need to go back and listen to some of the great Chicago hits and some of the great Motown hits and blend all that stuff, because the fashion right now is very retro. At the same time, my generation needs to stop saying, not you guys, but people I have been interviewed by on a certain radio show I will not mention, needs to listen to contemporary artists and come to an understanding of what's different about today's style, today's fashions in melody and lyric writing and chord progressions, which are quite different than in some ways, and at the same time very derivative in other ways. So just like fashions in clothes, when we go back and we do the 80s now, and you see them selling platform shoes and all this stuff in, at the Macy's, they're doing 80s and 70s, but I was there, and I know that it was different. It's a fantasy version of the 70s and 80s, not what really was, with different fabrics and different, it's subtly and sometimes not so subtly different. The same is true of music. So when we do retro and we do throwback, it's really important at the same time to keep those elements of melody that we have now that are a little bit different than what we did then. More intense forward momentum, more relentless forward momentum, although you will find that in Motown, some of the great Motown hits, and more longer choruses, longer songs, and more repetitive chord progressions, and very, very vivid lyrics, very vivid imagery, and a little more personal. So those kinds of fashions have changed over time, and what I love that we're doing now is that we're blending those with all the great music styles of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I think we're going to stay there for a while. I don't think that's going away. So it's a wonderful opportunity for both age groups to get together and write together, and also for us to each of us to learn the other's references that are embedded already, and blend some of the different styles that we bring to that from either contemporary or period. That's what I think is so exciting right now on the charts.
Absolutely.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's a generational melting pot. I mean, it's like one has to have the other. You got to have retro, and that style lends to today, but today's style helps keep the retro artists who are still doing it motivated to keep doing music. Whether that be positive or negative, it's up to you and how you feel. But one generation has to lend to the other. One generation has to respect the other. Absolutely.
Generational melting pot. I love that.
You said you said respect, right? So I do hip hop, and when I get with some of the elders who do music, say jazz musicians or people who are very good at chord progressions and whatever, there's this thing where they look down. And it's insulting and it's funny to me, and like I'll attack. If they want to say something crazy, I'm the type of guy who'll attack. Because for me, when I hear, I'll tell a rapper that Dre, would you close the door, please? I'll hear a rapper. 1 second, please. I'll hear a rapper with these great cadences and just these rhythms. She was talking about how much rhythm is useful and effective on emotion. And then I'll see this guy playing the keyboard, doing these great chords, and the feel for that person doesn't move anybody, but this guy rapping, his rhythm is. And I'll ask the guy to get with the rapper, and he'll look down, like, no, never. It's like, dude, you're an idiot. I'm your junior, but I'm telling you, you're being an idiot right now. This rapper has a cadence that you might be able to use for your music. You can, and if we marry the two, and then I have to get the rapper to, look, man, he's old, and I have to get him out of that mindset to blend them together, and it's a struggle to get both to come together. And the only reason I pull it off sometimes is because I can attack both of them. and I actually have a bit of their respect, not everybody's.
That makes sense. And I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but I'm a minister. I'm in the gospel. I write contemporary Christian songs. But I get inspiration from Steely Dan. I might have heard a line in a great song, Peg. It sure looks good on you. And that inspires an entire song. So you got to, take that one genre and make it mean something, and make lyrics that touch the world, and that's the way I feel about it. Like if I take that song Peg and I made a song that says, I used to be afraid, thought I'd be missing something, and I just use that element of style vocally and lyrically, and hopefully it would make sense, and you're not only paying homage to the artist who did it, but you're also making a stamp for yourself as someone who's serious about music.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I noticed
Springboard.
when I'm working with artists, like I cannot sing, and I really when I say on these hangouts, I sound like a hurt, dying dog. It's true. But what I've noticed is when I go in there and I simply lay down this vocal, that's this rhythm that's moving you. It's just the cadence when it's moving you, and then I bring a singer in to come up with the melody of that, because I'm horrible at melody. I can't hear when something's off pitch or none of that stuff. The combination of that groove, and I have to make them stick with that groove and that melody, it ends up working. And it's I cannot do that melodic stuff. They come in, they sing this stuff that's just not moving you rhythmically, and when we combine the two, it just works. Hold on, you know what, Nick? Wait, Ebony, did you have any questions? Because we haven't heard from you. You're sitting over there in the dark. We haven't heard from you yet. I believe she's in England, right? England?
Yes, I'm in England. And
She's a singer.
I didn't have an actual question. It's just that I tend to listen to everything as a writer. I play classical, and then sometimes I play rock, and other times I just randomly play different music. I have old records that I play, so I play Marvin Gaye and stuff, and I kind of have a broad version of writing, and I kind of in my head when I'm writing will say to myself, all right, I'm going to sound like that person today. And I'll take that kind of style from that person and add it into my work. But I don't think you should ever close any book to any other artist, should I say?
Yes.
Because the more you listen to the better your writing skills. And I listened. I like listening to Aqualung. They're really cool. Their singer-songwriter style is amazing, and I sing along to them and have my windows open and try and sing across the street. And I live on like a motorway, basically. So
give us an example.
Aqualung.
Yes, sing. Please.
Oh, Lord. Why do you do this to me? Wait. Oh gosh, I don't even know this stuff off by heart, off the top of my head.
See how I put people on
the you press play on the stereo, then you just kind of know the words, you sing along.
Sing anything.
Sing anything. Once I was a prisoner. I can't believe it. I don't know.
You're a prisoner of what?
Beautiful.
Nothing.
Beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful. She's right.
Super nice. Super nice.
Yeah, beautiful. You're right. Anything that inspires you, all good music is attractive to me too. I'll listen any good music. I listen to really everything, and I think that's important because you never know what's going to inspire you, and what's going to set off an idea for a song. I love it that you say, oh, today I'll throw a little bit of that influence into my voice, or I'll grab some chords from that. A lot of times you can grab a chord progression from a song and it's generic enough that it doesn't, you're not going to violate anybody's copyright with a 4-chord song.
I do that with my backing vocals. My backing vocals I do it the most with, because backing vocals, depending on what you're listening to in different songs that you're listening to, the way they merge their own voices together, if it's just their own vocals. It's really, really nice. It's like strong. What's her name? Is her name? She's a jazz singer. I can't remember her name, but she's recent. She's new.
Speaking of jazz,
Esperanza Spalding. Yeah, I love
Esperanza Spalding. Yes.
Yeah, I love her. I love her backing vocals and the way she uses her voice. She's amazing.
You know who I've been listening to a lot lately is Nina Simone. I didn't listen to her back in the day, and I'm just discovering her now. That's the other thing. There's people who are younger are just discovering the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, or just finding, and some of the less well-known bands, just discovering those. And for them, that's all new. It's such a wonderful thing when you find something that inspires you anew to write differently or feel something that you didn't feel before. And that's what I think we probably all are doing with music. This has been so wonderful, Matt. I have to go. I have something I have to do. But I really have enjoyed doing this and talking to everybody, and it's just been a lovely, lovely experience. So I just want to wish you all the best. Yes, Matt?
Thank you, Robin. Nick, if you even want to have a chance at having one of those, you'd better get it in, because Robin has to go.
All right, okay. I've got a few questions, just a few questions.
One
no. Oh, okay, one question. Well, the question that I was going to ask was because I really like I'm a big fan of Japanese anime, and I want to know if there's like a possible way of making a theme tune that would go onto a Japanese anime. Is there any way of being able to go into that?
Getting into anime is a little outside of my. I have done albums with those characters, but I've never done the TV shows with them.
Okay.
Excuse the background noise here. There was a phone call coming in, which I knew.
No worries, no worries.
I would say, as far as that's concerned, you can try. I would go ahead and write some. Have you written any? Have you actually sat down and tried to write theme songs to some of the shows that you like?
It's been on my mind, but currently I'm writing backing music for my YouTube channel, so I'm trying to get that going.
Here's what I would do. I would put up a YouTube channel. I would get together with somebody who's working their way up, who is maybe on YouTube, is posting some stuff, but it isn't commercially out yet. They're working on their chops, and you want to break in, and they want to break in, and they've got the anime skills, and you got the music skills. I would be finding somebody whose work excites you, because if it excites you, it will excite other people, because you know the genre, you're into it. If it excites you, it's going to be exciting to others. And get with them and say, is it okay? Can I compose music and a theme song for your stuff? And they're going to go, yeah, are you kidding? Sure. There's no money there, but do it. This is what I tell people who want to break into any kind of writing, especially for film, is get over to, here in LA, it's USC Film School, but wherever you are. And now we're online, so you can just get over to YouTube and find somebody that excites you, make them that offer, they're going to take you up on it, and start doing it. Because even if you got together with a production company tomorrow, if they said, well, show us some of your work, what kind of themes have you written? You might not have stuff that really works or really has been refined or really is ready to go. Don't ask, and this goes for all of us, don't ask to meet the gatekeepers until you're ready with the key, because the gatekeepers are going to demand the key. So I would be working on getting that and getting stuff up on YouTube and the more fans you get on YouTube, the more followers you get, the more you get for your channel. I'm telling you now that YouTube is breaking through novelists, singer-songwriters, composers. YouTube is amazing, and anybody can go. So once you find somebody you're interested in playing your stuff, or you go, oh, here's a link to the YouTube channel. Oh, and notice that we have 50,000 followers and 1 million views, and we have this and we that. That's what you have, because they are looking at that. They will go, oh, this person can bring 1 million, 50,000 followers with them to our new show that we're just going to launch in a couple months. That's 50,000 built-in people and all the PR we could possibly want. Yeah. So absolutely, I would be proactive. Don't wait around. Go for it and go do it.
the current issue that I'm having with my musical tastes is that they're so eclectic. I mean, like I would like bring in so many different genres and try and combine them together because I don't feel like I belong anywhere with the current music trends.
Well,
So
what you
I'm
want to do is compose music that suits, that fits the
yeah,
characters of what you're working on, because it's a good thing. When you're a composer, it's different when you're an artist. When you're an artist, you need to have a signature sound.
mm,
Otherwise, you need a singer with a signature sound, which is what I
mm,
do. But when you're a composer, it's great to have a lot of different things you can do. Your problem, your challenge will be to discipline yourself to write the style of music that will work for that particular anime production and
yeah,
give that to them. And then if you want to like really surprise people right in the middle and drop into some big orchestral thing or some
yeah.
Americana roots banjo thing. I
Like
mean,
for instance, I'm writing some Japanese metal.
yes,
So
yes.
so like
That audience
like
is going to like that.
Ayahuasca scales and all that sort of stuff, and then like some taiko drums, but with a metal.
Yes, that audience is going to love that. So that's a plus for you.
Yeah,
And the trick is going to be to go ahead and start developing those combinations and blends that actually work well, that you like, so that you have
yeah,
you have like a notebook of templates that say, oh yeah, I could do that taiko drums and metal stuff for this scene. I'm going to go do that. Oh, I like this other thing that I do with banjo and guitars and electronica. I'm going to do that over here. That
yeah.
audience will like that. They're
Mm,
youthful, they're looking for a lot of changes, they're looking for something. And work with the person who's doing the anime, and the two of you decide on what works best for those characters. Get yourself a notebook of templates. That will also shorten the time that you spend on it.
yeah,
That's another thing. When you're working for anybody, like when I used to work for Disney, I had to do 3 or 4 songs a week, write and produce them. So when you're working for these people, if they're cranking out this stuff pretty rapidly, you're going to have to match their pace. So
yeah.
that's going to be a great challenge for you and a really great learning curve. And you can use all your skills for doing that. Yeah, don't wait. Head over to
Um,
YouTube.
the other question, I'll make it quick. I'll make it quick. The other question is that today's trends, there seems to be a lot of similar sounding music within the pop industry at the moment, as far as I can see it. There doesn't seem to be many chances taken on different sides. I mean, only like a decade ago or so we had like Nirvana, and that was considered pop. Now we don't have anything as a counter to what's actually coming out, and it's starting to be very difficult for people who are a little bit like me, or maybe less eccentric than I am, who are not agreeing with the pop status quo. But
Yeah,
there doesn't seem to be no platform for it
that's a
anymore. It seems to be completely eroded away. And I was
That's a
wondering
good
if it,
observation. That's a
yeah,
good observation, but it's actually not the case. And I
okay,
get that a lot. I get this question a lot from people. Gee, yeah, everything on the top 40 charts right now, everything on the top 40 charts is pretty much beach and party songs because we're at the end of summer and the charts are at their absolute worst before the big albums come out in this fall. But yeah, you're going to hear a lot of Justin Bieber and Rock City and Adam Levine and all that. However, as soon as you go to the AAA charts, and you can find these charts over at bdsradio.com, I like bdsradio.com, or you can go over to just billboard.com and look up the AAA charts, where you're going to find a much greater range of styles, all the way from singer-songwriter over to dance with a twist on it, really interesting stuff, rock, indie rock, and the rock charts, of all things, eclectic things I've seen since the 1960s, where you have Mumford & Sons right next to Foo Fighters, right next to Three Doors Down, right next to, I mean, the rock charts are totally weird.
it
And
just
so,
feels like I feel a bit discouraged because of I couldn't see my music being that popular, if you see what I
well,
mean.
don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Because film and television, here's the other thing. Film and television is a home for you because the stuff they use is so unusual. I don't know how early you were here or how much of this you heard, but I've been suggesting that people listen to Daughter, and just check out Daughter and check out Agnes Obel, and check out, the Eddie Vedder's ukulele songs.
Yeah.
And this is all film and television music, and the interesting thing is that film and TV music has been crossing over slowly into the charts. But The charts are for radio, and it's a different use from film and television. This is where I started, and it's where I'm going to end. It's a very different use. You belong in film and television. There is a home for you there, whereas there is not a home for you on the charts yet. You may find that you write something that's very, very catchy and wonderful, and it migrates from film and television over to the charts, just like American authors did, and Ingrid Michaelson migrated from Film TV to the charts, and Joshua Radin didn't. He just makes a living on film and TV. You can do that and never go to the charts and totally satisfy yourself. I have never written a chart hit. I have never been interested in writing chart hits. But I love film and television because if I felt like it, I could write a song that sounds like a chart hit if I really want to. I could write anything I want, and there will be a home for it as long as it creates atmosphere, energy, or emotion underneath a scene. And that's it. So go do anime, go have fun, watch film and TV, check out some of these wild songs, and see if any of that appeals to you, because you can make a living there. It just, you don't have to be on the charts. Being on the charts is overrated, in my opinion. Okay. But thank you for the questions, for letting me say that, because I love saying that. The charts are overrated, and I really love film and television. Okay, if you want more of this and you just can't get enough, please do go over to Amazon, check out my ebooks, Study the Hits, and the 30-Minute Songwriter. And I have a couple of print books over there as well, but you can get the ebooks fast. Okay, I gotta go, folks. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you,
I will
Robin.
see all of you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, you guys. Talk about whatever you want. I'll be right back. We're not going to end it yet.
Is anyone there? Are we gonna?
I'm here.
I'm still here. I'm just trying to prepare dinner.
I gotta say that was some awesome information. She nailed some points. You know how we and I'm reading some of her website stuff about stealing stuff. It's true. We're all derivative of what we grew up on, what we listened to, what impressed us. And I think that she said it as perfect as anybody could say it. She's truly inspired me.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I'm sorry, guys. I'm cooking while I'm still going through with this forum here, man. But this was a phenomenal, informative, just much needed chat today, and I'm excited about the future because of what I learned today. You know, and that means a lot. So I wish you guys all the best as you endeavor to do what we're all doing, and hoping that you go as far as the planet will take you.
Maat, you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back. A whole crew just came in when we were doing this, and then they just walked out. A lot going on. So what were you guys saying now?
Just a great one, man. This one really was worth the time. Thank you.
Yes, very much so. I really need it today. Seriously.
Truly enjoyed it, Matt. Truly enjoyed it today, man.
Yeah, she kicks butt. I use her book and her videos online big time. Like, it's part of my whole learning process. Yep, Angela?
What's that?
I ordered it while I was watching. I ordered one of her books.
This one is the 30-minute songwriter. I gotta get her physical books. The other ones that I want to order those probably this week. The shortcuts to hip songwriting, and then the shortcuts to songwriting for film and TV. That's the ones I'm gonna get next. But I needed something quick, so I got this actually about a couple months ago. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Nice exercises.
Like I said at the beginning, she has stuff on Taxi, various stuff, talking about this, talking about other stuff. It's just good stuff, just like this.
And also, do sign up for her mailing list. I signed up some months ago, and she does send out those songs with the reverse engineering. And I actually started doing that, on really not knowing what I was doing, reverse engineering songs, just to, sometimes just go through them and just break them down and listen to even not just TV and film, but just some of the artists that I love, and was like, why do I love it? I want to know why I love it. Why do I love it? How do I know? Like, what are the reasons why I love this song? And I'll go through it, and I'll just listen to just the bass line. and then I'll go back again, listen to just the kick, and I'll go back again, listen to just the hi-hats. Like, what is it about this song that's getting me and grabbing me until I can figure out what that element is, and then try to get a little bit of that flavor in my own, not necessarily that exact flavor, but just something similar that does the same thing to my listeners.
That's how I am about Heatwave. I break down all of their strings before I even get to the vocal. I'm breaking down the string, the bass line, the soft drums. I mean, you got to just break it down and analyze it piece by piece, bit by bit, and you will get the fullness of it, and it will show in the work that you do. The inspiration will show.
All right, so Vegas left. How many people we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll learn to count sooner or later. Okay, is there anything you guys want to discuss before we head out?
I really enjoyed the point on authenticity because of something that I wasn't expecting. Because of most of the music that I hear on stuff like the series Dexter, I could hear like East-West samples and things. you know what I mean.
Authenticity. You talking about live instruments, or are you talking about
yeah. Like hearing music on like TV and for adverts and things. Sometimes you can hear samples, and it's refreshing.
It all depends. The stuff that she's doing, it might be one thing. You go to another show, and they might, it all depends.
And I also think like the point that she was making about the singer-songwriter, and when I thought about in context of TV and film, we learned, especially in school, like mostly the underscore and building things with instrumentation, and a lot of times even those things, you might present it to them with that, with the samples, and they might want it, and depending on their budget, they might want it fully, full orchestra and all that stuff. You might not have that at your disposal, but I think that with this, when she's talking about like a live violin, live ukulele, and you're looking at it in the context of singer-songwriting, then that actually makes sense. But of course, depending on the show, like Maat said, if it's if it's something more edgy, or like like she mentioned Switch That Births, they're more of I've been watching that lately. They're more contemporary type show. They might be looking for something that they don't mind if it sounds more synthesized. So I think it's cool to look at it both ways, because I didn't really think about that. I have a song right now that it's just like a more of a heartbeat type kick and just some chords, and then the vocal does most of the work. And I've had people say, oh, you need to add more piano to that. You need this and that and other, and more elements. But then if I were to pitch it to a show, it actually would probably be perfect. The way it is. So it's really cool to hear her perspective.
And that's another thing. We have to be careful who we take advice for, and they have to know what the purpose of what we're doing is. So if you have a piece of music that's what you call retro for some reason that fits some character, and then somebody comes and says, you have to put hey, you got to update your sounds. Like, nah, bro, you have no clue what I'm actually doing here. So you have to be very careful when people are giving you advice. They may need more information than just listen to my song, and then they start making comments. They can be way off base with what the purpose of that work is for.
So you're talking about like the design brief, basically.
Yeah, if you play a piece of music for me and I just start making comments, I'm suiting myself or what I think, whatever. Then the next thing you tell me, well, this was for an anime and her name is Raptapla, and she kills people, and I'm like, oh, my bad, because you didn't give me, because I didn't have that information, and I was going off of whatever information was, in my head. And that's one of the things about people making critiques about songs, and then some people are simply wrong. Even the like elite, whoever, critics or whatever. Like when Michael Jackson's Bad album came out, the first song that was released, all the critics were beating it up. I forget the name of it, but it's one of the greatest songs ever. It's like took off. But
I Just Can't Stop Loving You with him and Saida Garrett.
No, I think it was one before. It was before that one. But let's say it was I Just Can't Stop Loving You. Imagine that. The critics beating that up and saying, no, this is a horrible song, and then it takes off. So you have to be very careful about critics. I post stuff and ask people to critique for various reasons, and just I don't for various reasons. And
I think I think What's Going On was another one that they didn't think was going to make it. I want to say they shot that down and did not like that song, if I can remember when I was doing my research. Yeah.
Well, Motown did not want anything to do with black movement, struggle, anything to do with controversy. They, like Diana Ross was turned into a black lady who fit the white audience, like a black white girl. And so Marvin Gaye was conscious, and he thought about it, and he's like, no, I'm going to, my people are going through some stuff, and who's it, Barry Gordy was not trying to hear that, not trying to take a chance. So What's Going On was an issue. Now, I don't know what the critics said. I'm talking about the label, Barry Gordy now. Now, with the critics, I have no idea. You're saying that the critics themselves, outside of the company, said it wasn't going to do anything?
No, just within the company, were just like, they shot it down, and it ended up, blowing up, So,
yeah.
One of his biggest hits, so most memorable.
Anybody else before we head out? And Nick, about your music, remember grunge came in, it was totally different than everybody's stuff, bro. It's about what the people react to. If people hear your stuff and they're moved, I'm not talking about stuff for film, I'm just saying,
yeah,
if you play some crazy whatever and people are loving it, that's that, man. Like,
well, my point was that there doesn't seem to be a platform for that to thrive anymore, as there was back then.
There wasn't a platform for grunge. It took off though. Do you think?
I'm just trying to learn why it's that way now. Like why, like if you see the charts, it's very, very similar, and stuff like the new boy bands and all that sort of stuff. It's all samey, and then they use stuff like Busted and things like that, and it's just like when people grow up on that and they have no exposure to anything else because of that all. You see what I mean? And they don't search out of that comfort zone to try and find something different.
Here's me.
Yeah.
Hip hop. If I sit back and I let the radio tell me what hip hop is, if I let YouTube or like whoever's controlling whatever radio station or whatever tell me, so you have these people who are money people who are not in my culture tell me what hip hop is and what we're supposed to do, I'm screwed. The reality is they're supposed to do their thing, and it's like if you're playing a game, Lakers against the Celtics, each team is supposed to bust their ass to do their thing.
Yeah.
So if I'm on the Celtics team and I start listening to the Lakers and let them tell me what to do, I'm going to lose. So I'll turn around like Chris Brown came out with a song, China something. It sounded like some Michael Jackson stuff. It's dope. And one of the guys in Pensado Students said, that has no soul. And I'm sitting here like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I'm listening to this dude and he has no idea about our culture, and he's telling me what is what. And so if I listen to him, or I listen to somebody who is only about money and what they can make quicker, or how their bottom line is, I'll miss a whole bunch of stuff. Another example, just listening to people and them being wrong, Eminem came out with Rap God, and somebody in Pensado Students said that's the end of Eminem's career. Doing that. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, people who are totally clueless are making these statements. They've come and listened to the culture, maybe making money, maybe they're looking at the charts and they're thinking whatever. Rap God slayed people, and it's like, holy crap. Eminem, like it was dope.
It's like, it was a new level.
Yeah, and so you have to be very careful about who you're listening to, and they may be right, you may be wrong. But again, like with me, the music that we're doing here, when my elders tell me something, I listen, but the youth come through and do stuff that the elders don't understand with all their wisdom and whatever, and stuff takes off. So you have to really, like, if we do some authentic stuff, we look and see how people are reacting to it and judge it by that. How we do it. Like grunge took off, bro. It was totally different than what was out there, and it just slayed. People had to readjust their reality, just like when rap did its thing. But now we look at rap, and the people who ran rap, it's not the same. It's not control. It's not like we have one thing. Hey, let's have sex with women. Let's kill women. Let's call women out of their name. Let's kill each other. Like that type of stuff. When we controlled it, we were doing all kinds of stuff. We had Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Public Enemy, NWA.
KRS-One.
Yeah, we had so much different stuff that it was crazy. Now, when the money people came in, the culture changed, and we started listening to them. It's a mistake. So we have to take it back and do our thing. So I'm telling you, bro, do your thing and investigate what she said about how you would fit in film. You might be, the next who knows what.
Yeah, it's like with the hip hop industry. You've got a record label called Cash Money. you know, and all of the songs that come out from like that sort of record label, pretty blatantly like 2-second sort of thoughts.
And I can't put Cash Money down for doing their thing, but other people have to do their thing. If everybody just runs to Cash Money, like we'll have this thing of, oh, Nick just came out with that, so now we're gonna do that. That's what's in. We'll miss the boat. I'm always trying to be Nick, and I can never be. Nah, it's a win. We end up with a very limited thing when there's actually a big pool of stuff that we could do. Like right now, Brian, Craig, Keith over there we send him music. We're listening. We're like, oh man, we're loving this. We send him music. He plays live guitar on it, sends it back, and the mix is not anywhere near like his guitar is super loud because he's a guitarist. But when I'm listening, and the whole feel has changed. And it's like, man, this is dope. Like this, everybody is like, yeah, bruh, send him my track, because that live music has changed it. And instead of us just listening to whoever, we're just saying, bruh, do your thing, and it's his feel. He sends it back, and we're loving it. And it's nothing like anything that anybody out here is doing. We're not even listening. It's let's do our thing. Brian here, boom. He's this is a straight white dude. Like Brian is white, and he's on that guitar as this white dude doing his white thing. He sends it to all these black guys, and we're sitting here like, oh, this is dope. Because I wouldn't make those choices that he made. I can't play guitar anyway, but I wouldn't make those choices that he makes. And the stuff is being dope because he's just playing from his heart, and we feel it.
So what I'm getting from what you're saying is you gotta just believe in what you're doing and get on with it.
Yeah, do you, bruh. Do you. And let us get a taste of it and see where you can find it.
That's totally the truth right there. When you say it like that, that's what it is. It's you making a choice about doing what you do and what you love. If you're moved by a piece of music, there's something playing in your head. She talked about how we're all kind of derivative of what we learned over the years, what we loved. You might like a particular genre, I like a different genre. But when we play somebody's music, we hear something in our head that if you hear a melody counter or you hear something that falls in line with it, you're trying to figure it out. If you're a musician, when you pick up that thread, you start to weave your own tapestry into whatever kind of sweater or blanket or bundle wrap, whatever you want to call their music. You're making something a part of it. If you let your real part come out and you give that to it, if it's true to you, then you're going to like it. And if you like it, it's a possibility that the person who's listening to it is going to go, hey, that adds a flavor. Now, she talked about where this guy, Nick Drake, always played outside of the triad, adding those notes. I only listened to a little bit of what, I could get on the internet here. I briefly listened to it while I was watching the show. And she definitely nailed it when she said that this guy is adding this characteristic thing. He was real low key. He's not playing in the triad. He's going outside of it. If your heart as a musician allows you to have the basic talent to play your instrument, whatever it might be, you can add something to anybody's music. I'll tell you honestly, the way that I've learned to do this is I sit and I watch TV all day long. I'm on Netflix. I marathon Netflix constantly, but I'm constantly playing my guitar, and whatever comes on, if it's a commercial, if it's some underlying music, I'm constantly trying to add or pick up that thread. And sometimes you only get a brief few seconds because, like she says, it's only 10 or 15 seconds of music. But when you get to the point where when you hear something and you can click into it, as a professional musician, this is where the bonus comes, because when somebody comes to you and says, hey, man, throw some licks on this, yeah, maybe it's not your style of music, but immediately, if you can pick up a thread, you can start to sew. And once you start to sew, pretty soon you'll have a tapestry, and everybody's going to go like, yeah, I never thought about it like that. And that's what's happening,
He's having conversations with our music with his guitar, and I love it. And it's all kinds of stuff. and none of our songs are sounding the same because as we're doing them, I'm mixing up people. The way I start the songs or make the songs is different. Every time we approach it, it's different, and it's a simple thing. Part of the simplicity of it is like Nick, if I'm working with you and you're going to be a lyric writer, and I ask Ebony to make an honest statement about a subject, and I say, look, it's got to be a diary entry, honest statement, like something real.
Yeah.
She makes that, and then I say, okay, Nick, get her. What you really would feel, what you'd say behind closed doors, what you would say under your breath, lay that down. That contrast, you honestly letting it out, whatever it is.
Like my dog died today or something.
Whatever. But yeah, and you say that, and I just
like that anyway.
I imagine people with pets not really feeling like they do, but they really do be feeling like that.
Yeah.
Like really, like Jason Schweitzer loves his pets, and Dre DeMose, his dog died. He actually accidentally killed his dog, and it screwed up our whole day. And I'm sitting there looking like, are you for real, bro? Because where I'm from, we don't relate to our animals like that.
Yeah, well, you think you could write that track and just make it big.
Conversely, though, the OJs made a song called Brandy, and everybody thought he was talking about his woman, and he was talking about a dog.
Are you kidding me, bro? Because I listen to Brandy a lot, bro. Are you serious?
Hey, I'm telling you, I'm from Cleveland, man, and the first thing I said is, you got to be out of your mind. You think they wrote this song about a puppy or a dog? I still don't believe it, but a lot of cats have told me, that was definitely about a dog. So when you hear him saying, "I really miss you, Brandy," it's like, okay, your dog, really?
On the doorstep, wow. Okay, I always wondered why she'd be at the doorstep. Wow. Okay.
Think about it. On my doorstep in the rain. What woman gonna be sitting by your doorstep in the rain?
I'm so dying right now. Y'all are crazy. This is funny.
Wow.
That'll mess up your whole childhood, didn't it?
I'm just going to deny inside that that's the truth. But
now you got to revisit the lyrics and just try and understand the context.
I would use that song and say, listen to these lyrics. We're talking about studying lyrics. Like, listen to these lyrics. Listen to this heartfelt stuff. And what there's something there. I would say there's something there. He's talking about on a doorstep in the rain. I don't get, there's something there. Like, you've got to dive in and let's write these lyrics that really
It's a dog.
Think about it. He said, I was in love when they put her down on my doorstep in the rain. I could feel the love coming to my heart through my window pane. Now, first of all, a woman is going to make herself known. She's going to ring the doorbell. And she ain't about to wait in the rain for no long time because her hair is going to get messed up.
And she's not about to be pressed up against nobody's window pane.
There you go. There you go.
That's his dog.
Beautiful song. Beautiful song.
That's so funny.
And just listen to the sound. Like, even when you sing it right now, not just, we say the melody, but listen to the texture of that, the feel, the way that it's not just ding, 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 a melody. There's such an essence to that. But damn, a dog. All right, they got that's anyway. So yeah, let's. Since I've been had on that, I'm gonna go back and listen to that song again. Anything else, y'all? We didn't ruin my day.
I didn't mean to ruin your day, man. I'm an OJ's lover. You from Cleveland? You got to love the OJ's, So.
And Nick, what is that you say helped you over there? What is that link going to?
That's a video of one of my favorite artists, Joe Satriani, and he just talks about how you can stretch out the melody if you had something simple.
Yeah, got you.
So he was going over, like, instead of if you played the triad, like the root, third, and fifth, if you just did that and you just did that as a melody, that doesn't say much about the journey of the melody. So he was basically saying that if you do the root, third, and fifth, you're just going to say, well, that belongs there. But if you use the other notes, like a suspended note, you're not indicating where it's going yet. So you can stretch it out. You can stretch out the idea.
Okay.
So
see, you're talking music theory stuff. I'm going to bring Ask Greg Fines to come on so we can talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, because counterpuntal stuff, things like using your sus2s and sus4s, your 7s, your 9s, and those things like that, those really, I mean, it really can get, like Robin was saying, very sophisticated. And
I understand the jazz theory. You can ask me anything, man. You can ask me anything. I can give you that.
I need that type of stuff in feel. Like when you say a 7, okay, that's cool, but how does this feel? What is that doing to me? That type of stuff.
That's just ear training. That's ear training. You just need to know how that relates to the original note. So if you play the first note and then you play the 7th note, you've got to understand how that harmony is working against each other, and then you could use that as ear training to understand. Well, that's the kind of feel that I'm going for. So it's one of those things that you train on, and after a couple of years, it becomes second nature, and you'll be like, oh, I know what that sound is, so I can recall it quicker and be able to generate that feel. It's more of like a system to understand how to communicate quicker.
I need to be able to, if a sus7 causes a certain emotion when done, blah blah blah, whatever. I need to be able to use that to manipulate emotion, create. Right now, I hear sus7 is like, okay, that's some nerdy stuff, that's cool, but there's no relation to the feeling of what it would cause, and that's what I need.
But it's
I had no idea about that either.
Yeah, it's like if you go into like the sus thing. If you have like a major chord, and then you put a sus note, like a sus4, you're removing the tonality of whether it's minor or major. So you're giving that suspended feel, and that's why it's called a suspended chord. Yeah. So when you're doing,
nobody explained it. Nobody even said that to me when I was taking classes on it. See, what you just said actually makes. I understand that, because when you say minor, I think sad. When you say major, I think happy. It's simple like that for me. And then when you said in between and you're suspended, you don't. What I heard was, I don't know if I'm happy or sad or where I'm going type thing.
Yeah, so it stops. It makes it ambiguous, and it kind of like you don't know if it's going to be major or minor after that. So it's kind of like an in between. So you can use it like a bridge.
Exactly, a transitional type of chord. So like you might go from a sus4 to a like, say for instance you used to have a suspended fourth of let's just say a major chord triad, and you have the suspended fourth. So instead of the first, third, and fifth, you're having the first, fourth, and fifth, and now it has this interesting tonal feel to it that just really gives you, it invokes an emotion, and then you can move from that back to a major and give it, and just give it some motion. You can do the same thing with a sus2, where you have the second one, suspend a second. So it's really interesting when you get into it. And then there's modes, there's different modal interchanges and scales. It's crazy stuff. It gets real. It can be a rabbit hole of sorts, but there are things that once you learn them, you can use them creatively and just embellish things that might otherwise seem very simple. And it's okay to be simple, because sometimes a simple melody is exactly what you want, but sometimes you just want something a little different.
I mean, the thing is with me is that I went to 2 colleges to study this stuff, and now that I've got so much knowledge, it's just like I've got so many years to catch up with how much knowledge has been crammed into me. Whilst you're learning it, it can like bog you down, and it can make you feel like, oh, this is so much information. But after a while, you start internalizing it, because you start playing a lot around, playing with it with your instrument and your songwriting techniques, and then you go, well, wow, this is actually opening up a massive amount of like information, and I can access nearly every part of music in the world and be able to, construct something out of it.
And like when I said contrapuntal, just in case you didn't catch that, if anybody didn't understand what I meant by that, but when you're using counterpoint up against your melody, and you're using a counter melody on top of that melody, that's what's called contrapuntal. So there's that concept in itself is like, it can be real geeky when you're learning it, but then when you start, and I was doing it before I even started learning theory. I've been doing music since way before I learned theory in school, but it's like when you can apply those concepts and you're like, oh wow, then you can start doing some really, really cool things. So
what is counterpoint now? Counterpoint
is like when you have a melody, and then it's counterpoint is very can be very it's kind of like, I guess you would say, Sudoku of music, but it's basically when you have a melody and you have a counter melody against that, and you can have multiple counter melodies. So that's a topic, a totally different topic of its own, but it's just another way when you can, when you're writing melodies and your parts, that you can, have several different melodies going against each other without them clashing and them working all together.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like having, when you have a chord progression and you have your chords, they're all static, they're not moving.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have your counterpoint, you're doing melodies,
on top of that,
but then if you did melodies that are on top of that and on top of that and on top of that, you have moving chords.
Yeah. And
so they wouldn't be static. You'd have chords that move all the time.
Right.
So is that kind of,
when we were learning,
Angela?
we basically, what's that?
I'm sorry, I was wondering, is that kind of like when you would listen to like Papa Was a Rolling Stone by the Temptations? What the producers were doing there, would that be like counterpoint? Like the strings had it had multiple melodies in the strings alone?
Oh yeah.
Would that be considered counterpoint?
Oh yeah, we do it. I mean, you're gonna hear it in everything that you all different types of music. I was just go on YouTube and look at some beginning things of counterpoint, just to kind of strip it down. I think it's Mac Pro Video has a really good counterpoint video on there. I can shoot you a link to that, but because I actually have a discount code for that.
That would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal.
But yeah, counterpoint, like I said, stripped all the way down, and learning it can be a little, just intense. And I remember learning in school, I probably cried a couple of times trying to, get it. Get it right, and then there's different stages of counterpoint when you're learning, just the geeky part of it, when you get really nerdy with it. But then when you start applying it to everything, I mean, I was already doing counterpuntal melodies before I even started learning counterpoint officially in school. So, but yeah, like you were saying, I mean, it could be like when we were learning, we actually had like whole notes going all the way across, and this is how it was. So it was. You would think, okay, this homework is going to be super simple because I have whole notes, and all I have to do is just do whole notes, and these have to be counterpuntal. Okay, cool. I can do counterpuntal whole notes, and then the next week we had to do like half notes, and then we had to do like a quarter note over a whole note. It was just like, and then it's like you had to, moving melodies only in one half step, and then you couldn't one half step. You couldn't go. Then you could do like maybe some thirds and maybe some fourths, and then it's really creating some really cool melodies and starting off very simple, and then you can kind of move to some things that are a little bit more complex. So I would look into that and just kind of do some YouTube searching on counterpoint.
What I noticed.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
What I noticed was a guy, like one of the guys was explaining, he would have one melody ascending, he'd do another melody, and it would be descending.
Mm-hmm.
Two total sections, and then the space in between them, like if you have two notes, the melodies, one ascending, one descending, and at certain points they hit at the same time, and that creates a chord, let's say. So say you have a note, you said a whole note going on, and it's hitting the notes middle C, and every note that's played while that note is playing is actually working with that note, combining with that note. And if you have two notes going, one ascending, one descending, every time that they're hitting all three, you have these three notes hitting at one time, they're creating a chord, which is a move, and that can have a movement within itself. There's
exactly
that type of thing.
Exactly. And I can send you a score, Maat, that I did that is just like, it's crazy because I didn't even know I was doing counterpoint at the time. And I mean, I had like a violin line going, a piano line going, and a bass line going, and they were all working in together. But it was like at one point, those like that bass line, that piano, and that violin, those notes would make a chord, and it was just, it's amazing what you can do. Super, super, super cool.
And you're right. There's one tutorial on Mac Pro Video. I forget the guy's name, but he's explaining counterpoint. It's a vocal video.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is.
Counterpoint, and he gets pretty deep into it, which I can't do it. But it's a good vocal tutorial.
Yeah.
Hey Matt, do you have an invite link to this? Because my friend, he's studying counterpoint and he wants to talk about it.
Okay. Outside the Box, vocal production and arranging. Look that up on YouTube. Eyals, I don't know his full name, but Eyals. Dude is his tutorial. If you guys buy it at Mac Pro Video, it's worth every penny. Yes. Nick,
I'm gonna shoot you my link in here too, Maat.
Okay, Nick, just the link that you clicked to come in, just give him that link. Yeah, just give him that link so he can come in and speak on it.
And Angela, I'm following you on Facebook right now, and I'd greatly appreciate if you could send that link to Facebook. That'd be good for me.
Most definitely. Yeah, I have an affiliate link with Mac Pro Video. I don't ever use, so it gives you it actually gives you, I think, a 50% discount or something cool like that. I'm not sure. It might be too much. I think it might be 20%, something like that.
Pro Tools, the recording music biz, something like that. Groove3.com, Mac Pro Video.
Oh yeah, I have Groove3. Yeah.
There's so much stuff out there, like Ken Lewis's website. There's so much stuff out there to help us. It's insane, and we live in a good day and age. Nick, did you send him the link?
Yeah, I sent him the link. He should be joining soon.
And he may have to install some software in order to come in.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
But yeah, he just wants to talk about counterpoint because he's been studying that quite thoroughly. He's quite an intelligent dude, so he wants to just discuss it a little bit. So before you run away, it'd be quite cool.
Robin,
what were you saying, Matt, before I got kicked out of here?
Oh, I was just saying I was going to kick you out. That's all.
Oh wow. Were you asking about Pro Tools? You said something about Pro Tools.
Nah.
Okay.
Let me. Robin's videos online. You guys out there, Google. Let's see. One of her websites is the Song Coach. You can go to Google the Song Coach videos, or if you go to the Song Coach website, her blog or whatever, click on videos, and you'll see a bunch of videos of hers. She has some cool videos. I use them for. One of the things I use them for is when somebody comes in. I want us to use the same language, be on the same page, and I'll have her watch some of Robin's videos, and when we start having conversations, it just makes it easier because we're using the same words. All right, I see him here.
This is Tom.
Tom, nice to meet you.
Hey, you right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about counterpoint.
It was. Well, actually, I've been watching for the entire thing. And more or less, and I kept wanting to say things, just like, no, I won't join, and it's just like, I know counterpoint. I was just like, I want to say something, so I'm just gonna join, so I can say things when prompted.
Okay, counterpoint. What can you tell us about counterpoint?
Oh, actually, the thing about counterpoint is, it was basically it developed from monks chanting, and the entire basis of harmony developed from two people singing different lines. And the thing is, the actual rules of counterpoint are based on psychoacoustics. So one thing you can't do, which is quite controversial, is moving in the same direction into a fifth or an octave. And that's because fifths and octaves sound a bit similar. So a lot of the rules on counterpoint, which is something that's quite interesting and useful if you're doing arrangements, is a lot of the rules of counterpoint have developed to create a sense of separation between the voices. Like another rule of counterpoint is you don't have the parts cross over. There's rules of keeping a congruent and balanced melody so it doesn't sound too messy, that kind of thing. But the parallel fifth thing and the octaves thing, that's the main thing to retain the sense of independence between the voices, which is how you can have big choirs all singing these intricate things, but you can still pick out each melody.
And how do they keep things separate?
So it's mostly the parallel fifths and octaves thing.
Yeah, the rules they're tricky, and when you're learning them, like I said, it's like a musical Sudoku. You just again, you have to avoid the parallel fifths, avoid the octaves, and then like you know. But the thing is about what he was saying is like when you're learning that, it's so strict. But you know, when you're doing like especially popular type music, you can use points, you know, types of counterpoint in your stuff, but not be that strict as what we were taught when we were in school. So it's very, like I said, I was probably brought to tears a couple of times in school because it's just, you think you have it figured out and you're like, no, that's not it. I have a fifth there, and you're thinking, oh yeah, I've got it, I've conquered it, and then you look and you're like, no, I just broke a rule, and then you have to try to go through the whole line again and figure out where you messed up. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, there is like it is like some of the rules feel like kind of pointless and like superfluous, like when you're like for today, but like when you're doing that particular style and you're doing like a big kind of choral arrangement and you want to have like 8 different voices all singing different parts that would otherwise kind of not feel, that was kind of like blurred together otherwise, it's kind of a good idea to follow these strict rules of separation. I mean, if you type in like into YouTube like Renaissance polyphony, when they do all the 4-part voices, there's no kind of like, there's no real there's no central melody because they're all doing all these intricate, interesting melodies.
Exactly. And the Baroque type styles, those type, like you said, the Renaissance type music, those, you know, you have to be strict. There's no way around it because it just won't sound right, and it won't be authentic to that time frame. Cool stuff, Tom.
Okay. Somebody out there Google using images for songwriting with Robin Frederick's name. Well, hop on YouTube and look for it. Let's see what else. She has several Drakes out there, several stuff out there. She spoke about Nick Drake. There's articles out there about Nick Drake and her where she's published talking about her being with Nick Drake, the songwriting, playing songs for each other. All those big Nick Drake fans out there. There's also a documentary on Nick Drake called A Stranger Among Us. You can Google Robin Frederick Song Path. She has stuff about, let's see, melody in your lyric, which is like Brad Chapman and others have talked about. When you speak with melody, and once you hear it, you just over accentuate it to where you really bring the melody out of your voice. Let's see what else. Anyway, she has articles out there. Check them out. Is there anything else you guys want to cover before we head out?
Just one thing is the reverse engineering. If you could be a bit more specific on what that's supposed to be. You like, is that so you just try and understand what you like out of it, or you just try and break it down to its bare bones? I mean, what's the process? Just quickly.
Oh, you missed the whole thing, huh?
Yeah.
You weren't listening. Yeah, she talked about it in the beginning, and she has in her books. Angela, would you get him because she has a free ebook. Would you send
which one? The on her actual website?
Yeah,
well, it's not. I don't know if it was an actual. I know she sent out a newsletter. She
has an ebook online. You go to her website.
Reverse engineering starts with learning what your instrument is and going through and creating the music. In other words, finding the chord progression. Is a 1-4-5, 1-3-6. What is the chord progression? Understanding that progression first, and then learning it on your instrument and knowing that music is the start. All right, I gotta run. I'm out, brother.
All right, bro.
Take it easy.
My family just came in. I got to get out of here too, guys. I enjoyed this chat so much, and I really appreciate all this information. Angela, Nick, Matt, I love it. I love this. I love this. Brian, enjoyed you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
I'm going to, y'all take care. Glad to have you guys on board. I'm gonna
I gotta leave too.
yeah, I'm gonna go in and find you some stuff on reverse engineering so you can hear, so you can see her doing it.
Yeah.
And she already talked about it in here, so you can watch that. But I'm gonna get you links, Nick, where you can read and actually look at the videos for yourself. Like she'll say, "Here's what these guys did." Like when we were reverse engineer, the concept of reverse engineering. Let's say you put out a product, and I did not want to be caught for copyright or whatever, right? I would
like
hire,
I helped you the other day.
but so what I would do is say I'd go to Japan and say, hey guys, here are the specs. I need this, whatever your song does, here are the specs. And I would tell them the specs, but they would never see your song. And so people would get away with that in business, where something would be created, but they weren't using your schematics or whatever. And so they would engineer it, based off of that, what the end result is. And so you look at the end result of what these people have, and you try to create it. Or you go and you study what they've done, and then you do it.
Yeah.
That's the basic idea. But she has a bunch of she actually has a bunch of stuff where she's going through it with you, where she says, here's the song, here's what they're doing, and then you actually are supposed to do it yourself with your own music.
Oh, that's cool, because
Yeah,
I think sometimes when you do that, you probably end up with something original anyway.
Oh yeah.
You do.
Oh yeah.
There's also some videos on Groove 3 that walk through that too, the reverse engineering thing, which is before I actually found Robin Frederick. But like I was saying, the actual newsletter she sends out, they have the reverse engineering in them. So she'll give you, and when you sign up for her newsletter, I'm just trying to pull up my email, but she does give you a song, and she'll go through it, like she'll break everything down. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. Because that'll help me for tunes that I like. Like my Joe Satriani and my Andy Timmons. I love my guitarists.
And the video, she speaks about a little bit on the video. You know what? I'm going to get the video right now. But the event page that I created for this has a video that you could click on, that you're able to click on and see her talking about it a little bit. But I'm about to go and search right now for
All right, guys, y'all hit me up on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, keep in touch for the anime idea if you're going to Korea. That'd be quite cool. I'll be up for that.
Most definitely. All right, guys.
Okay, I just sent you a link to a video. Go through her videos and you'll see a bunch of stuff. I'm going to post it in Pensado Students too. That one even says reverse engineering, but she talks about more than that. But to get deep off into it, it's in her books, and then she has an ebook. I'll find the ebook or the link to it or whatever. I'll get it to you. So you can really dive in where you're actually doing it with her instead of just explaining it. You actually can go through do it, and
I have an idea. Why don't you make a group just called Pensado's Hangouts, or not like your own group for Hangouts? Because then you can just post information that's relevant to the Hangouts rather than getting lost in Pensado's group.
Okay, so you don't know that we have a Pensado Students Hangout group?
I don't think so.
Yes, we have it. I think Kenny Joya created it.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll send you the link to that too. And yeah, all this stuff, all these links that we've talked about, I'll go in there and I'll put the links. Like you can go in there and find the event for this hangout in there, and then I'll, within that post the links to all the stuff that we talked about. It'll all go in there, and you can click on different stuff. Matter of fact, I'm going there right now, and I'm about to add a link on her talking about reverse engineering and some other stuff, and that link will take you to other stuff. So all you people out there listening, do a search on Facebook for Pensado Students Hangouts, and
you've got a nice advertisement of Calvin Klein in there.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, that's about to change. I'm an admin in there.
Yeah.
That's about to change right now. Wow, that person is about to be ejected out of the group. Jenna Kim, you're going to be ejected out of the group. It was nice knowing you.
It's kind of obvious with the profile photo. You got two like gorgeous
post and remove user.
Yeah.
Done. Jenna Kim is no longer in there. You will not be doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
So on there, I'm posting a video right now. It's one of the videos. Just check her video out. It says reverse engineering songs, but you'll see when you read it. She goes into that and more stuff, and there's going to be other links there where she's going to get into it. And just go there, you'll find information, bro, as you start going through videos.
I was thinking because the songwriting thing is more Tom's thing than mine. I'm still like edging in there slightly at really slow pace, but Tom's more of a songwriter than I am. But yeah, just let Tom know a bit more when these things are happening. I think you'll be interested.
Tom, you're more than welcome to come in and join these. Anybody out there listening, you people are welcome to join these. I do these so that you guys can come in and talk to different people who are, kicking butt at their crafts. They want to give back, and we just welcome them in, and you guys get to ask them questions. Do not hesitate to hit me up on Facebook and try to get in these things. I'm telling you, don't hesitate.
Yeah, I've actually just been kind of listening to most of the entire thing, just like basically just hanging, and like so much. I could have said so much about the things discussed, and I was just like, nope, not yet. And then just like you guys started talking about counterpoint, and I'm just like, I have a lot to say about this. So Nick, let me in. but now you guys are going, so it's like, oh man, should have just joined sooner.
Yeah, it's getting late for me as well. I've got work in the morning. So
now, what time is it over there in the UK?
11 at night.
11 p.m., right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for staying up. So I've posted some stuff over there on the Pensado Students Hangouts Facebook group. Whoever wants to join, go ahead. I'll add you. If you put Calvin Klein or anything like that, ads, I'll delete you. Other than that, you can come in there and look through. Khalid Glover, his videos, Dave Hampton, Bill Kamek, myself, and there's a few others. We're doing stuff trying to help you guys, trying to give back to the community.
Can you post SoundCloud links to your stuff, or does it still have to be related to?
We have a hangout, a Facebook group called Mixed Critiques. If I were you, and if you were going to post that, what I would do is make it relevant. So if there's a hangout, and you had a question, you could post it in there and say, here's my song such and such. What do you guys think? What would I do for counterpoint? Or you go into the Pensado Students Mixed Critique, the Mixed Critique group, and post it in there if you want critiques. That's if you want critiques. But just make whatever you're posting relevant to the group, and it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently working on this at the moment. It's just a bit of music for speaking, and I just thought it's a little bit crazy and a little bit wacky, but I'm playing that at the moment. I just played the bass, and I emphasized the bass on that mix to show that I did the bass. But
all right, Nick Willen has just been added, probably by Bill Kamek.
Yep.
I didn't get to it.
I added myself.
Quick draw, Bill. Okay, Bill, peace. All right, you guys, we're going to call it quits.
Sure, man.
Everybody have a nice one. This was a kick butt, hangout. Robin, thank you.
Cool.
See ya.